Oh, great. I heard an echo, so I didn't want to start talking until the echo went away. I think we got it. Let me approve on my screen. Got it. All right. Well, welcome everybody to August 30th, the last day of the month, Irvine International Academy Board Meeting. Thank you, parents, so many of you for being here. We'll be getting to public comments right away. But prior to that, I want to introduce myself to some who I've not met in person yet. I'm Doug Hewson. I serve as board chair at this time. And we're about to do roll call, and then we'll open up to both public comments. We'll do those online primarily first, and then if there's any in the building, we'll acknowledge those as well. You can acknowledge when we do that yourself on the chat line. We don't want to miss you. Then you can activate your microphone. And if you can stay within about the 3 minute, if you can target the 3 minute time frame, there'll be enough time for everybody. That'd be wonderful. Sometimes our board members will give some reflection right back. We may have a significant number of comments. If we do, then we'll just reserve board comments and we won't comment after each one. Okay, let's do a roll call with board members who are present. I'll begin. Board Chair Doug Hewson present. Let's hear from in the building first.
Brett Freeman present.
So Brett Freeman present as well. I do want to acknowledge both our principal, Stephen Chong, who is in a nearby room and building, and then here in our building, Superintendent Dr. Michael Scott. Other board members online, how about we'll start with Glenn.
Glenn Rogers present.
Okay, Glenn Rogers, thank you. And as each addresses, if you can imagine you're in a bit of a bigger room than you actually are, it will help us with hearing a little bit because we're listening over a computer speaker at this time. Thank you. Ethan, how about you? Would you like to acknowledge?
Ethan's present.
Okay, very good. And then Edward?
Edward Watson is here.
Very good. And so we have a quorum. Not present is Miller Zhang, board member, and then Dr. Jolene Smith, both potentially unavailable for family reasons. If they join us, that's great, but we do have a quorum, so we'll move forward. The agenda most have is posted on our Facebook page, but next we'll do public comments prior to some a shorter closed session than normal. And so let's start then. If we have public comments, would you acknowledge in the chat area that you'd like to speak? And here we go. I think someone did a posted one. And so let's take a look at Rihanna, if I'm saying your name correctly. Would you like to read this yourself or have us read it?
Sorry about that. If you don't mind, if you can read it, because I have kids yelling in the background. Thank
you. I'll be more than pleased to. This question may have come in early, she acknowledged. Let me try again. As a member of the PTO, and that's our parent organization, many parents come to me for answers about questions for Irvine International Academy. And that's great. By the way, for those just joining us, that's part of the purpose that Principal Chung formed the PTO, to foster both communication and coordination. Okay, one of the questions is, who are my students' teachers? What is the school's phone number? How can I learn more about the PTO? Great. Where do I find details on our IIA's COVID protocol? And because I get so many questions, I frequently go to the website. I notice that it's a little, she says, extremely outdated and missing information. For example, it has a bio and picture for a fifth grade teacher, Ms. Brown, and phone number listed on the school website is the Dr. Scott's phone number rather than the 949 area code. Let me see if I can move on. Question about if no one's updating the website, how did they win the bid? How could the website already be outdated in 2 weeks in the trimester? Sorry, I've got to scroll this. It's a small window for me, so it's taken me a second. Sorry, and we got about 7 more. Okay, that's it. So thank you. Here's what I'd like to do for those, because they'll apply to everybody. We'll follow this up with specific answers. I know some of those. I know Principal Chung's nodding. He knows obviously the answer on how to be involved with the PTO. This one probably would be a worthwhile parent email, in my opinion, just tackling these all at one time for you on that, because they'll apply to everybody. So we could make those available to all the parents. So we'll take a task to do that. Thank you for that one. Next one is from Tung Yoon McNally. I hope I'm saying your name properly. Forgive me if I'm not. Would you like to read this? This is mother of a 3rd grader. Tung Yoon, would you like to read this?
Yes,
Help me with the pronunciation of your name.
you pronounce that right. Tong Yong McNally. Or you can go easy on just any McNally.
Thank you. Well, share your comment with us. Thank you for being willing to either read it or share it just as you would like.
No problem at all. Okay, dear parents, Principal Chung, and board members. This is Tong Yong McNally, okay, mother of 3rd graders. I want to express my concern about incidences happened last week wherein false information were distributed to my children in the classroom without parent consent, and disruptions of instruction time also without parent consent. Families are attracted to Irvine because that Irvine has a public school system that is among the top rated school districts in the nation. We gave up a well-managed, well-funded school district, experienced teachers, and the shining modern campuses to come to Irvine IA on the promises of a sound Mandarin immersion program and rigorous academic curriculums. However much I want my children to continue their Mandarin immersion education, the bottom line is that I want my kids to learn in a safe, focused environment so they will be ready to advance here in the United States. In addition, there are many cities surround Irvine, such as Costa Mesa, City of Orange, and Laguna Niguel, which also have well-established Mandarin immersion programs in their public schools. Therefore, board members and Principal Chung, if Irvine IA fails to deliver the minimum of a safe and focused learning environment, please be reminded that there are always choices for Irvine families. Okay, that's the end of my comment.
Thank you very much. And we'll take a task to follow up on, if you're open to receive a call from Principal Chung, we'll get more details from you, especially about the idea of false information. Of course, we want to stand for the truth. And so if you'd be open on giving specifics to Principal Chung, thanks for being sensitive in this environment. But we want to dig in and know that. So we'll follow up. Thank you. Next, Vicky Chan, would you like to do your comments audibly?
Yeah, sure. I can do that. I probably can speak faster. Thanks, everyone. My name is Vicky Chan. I am actually a physician. I practice in Los Angeles. I'm an ophthalmologist. I have 2 kids in the program, 1 in kinder and 1 in 3rd grade. First of all, I do want to just thank you guys, the board, Dr. Scott. We are very lucky. We feel lucky to be at this school. We appreciate the Mandarin immersion. My kids love it. Like, they come home and they're so excited. So thank you so much for all you have done. I also want to acknowledge members of the PTO and the board members for putting together and passing the safety protocol. I know that was kind of a back and forth thing, but I am relieved, again, as a parent and as a physician, that there is one of these in place, that safety of our children is one of the priorities. However, I know it's been 2 weeks. I know it's like still like touch and go. But I do have concerns, maybe the same ones as Ms. McNally. I have heard and seen that not all the staff is necessarily following these protocols. In fact, I have overheard and seen some staff actually speaking against some of the protocols. And this is concerning for two reasons. And I'll give two. There are a lot of reasons. I'm going to give two. Number one is trust. All right. You're telling parents, you're telling the students, you're telling everyone that we are following these protocols. But then volunteers are coming in. People who are interviewing are coming in. I have friends who have interviewed, who have told me this, that these are not being followed, that they're being told something different. And this is a trust issue now, right? Because if we can't trust, this school to uphold these safety protocols that we say are in place, then, it's like, as a parent, like, what else can I not trust you on? Like, what else is happening that I don't know, right? And especially if we're trying to recruit, fill spots that are open, we're trying to build a reputation, like we're trying to build a community, like these are all things that are built on trust. And so, this is something that's concerning to me. The second issue, again, as a physician, okay, these are safety protocols. They're there for a reason. These were, I think, the members of the PTO use CDC, California Public of Public Health, American Academy of Pediatrics. These are all recommendations, right, based on safety and health. If we don't follow these, we could be in trouble. I mean, if you just look across the country, there are schools that are shutting down because of COVID issues. And we are a new school, people are looking at us, and the last thing I want is this school to get shut down. I mean, all of this would have been for nothing. My kids will be so upset, and that is the last thing I want. And so just in conclusion, I know I'm talking super fast. I really, really think we have this awesome, solid protocol. We need to follow it, all of us. I know we all have opinions, but there are rules for a reason. Like, my kid doesn't want to wear pants, he's got to wear pants. These are rules, right? Like, we have to set the example. And it's not only for the safety of our children and our staff, it's for the trust, security for families, current and future, if we want to recruit. And then also just for the well-being of our school. Like, if we want to be around, if we want to keep everyone safe and we don't want to get shut down. So those are my comments.
Thank you for those, both of those topics too. And we agree. One of the greatest benefits, of course, is children on campus. And so there are small sacrifices to make in this season that are both wise, but then also worthwhile, when you consider the alternatives. Thank you for those too, Vicki. Let's see, next I've got to scroll backwards a little bit because we had a few more. Can you tell
Alex Chen.
who's next, Mary Beth?
Alex Chen.
Hi, Dr. Houston. Alex Chan. I'm a chair for the Department of Clinical Pharmacy at UCI School of Pharmacy. Both my wife and I are both board-certified pharmacotherapy specialists. We're licensed pharmacists here in California. And our son is in the TK class. Again, appreciate the fact that, everyone is putting the school together. At UCI, I'm setting up a new school. So welcoming new students coming to join us in the fall. So same with IIA. So, I am pretty much having firsthand experience about how to set up a new school to protect students from COVID. And when I'm seeing how IIA is currently protecting kids from the virus, I'm very disappointed. Two things I want to bring up because I only have 3 minutes. First thing is that I think the school really needs to be more visible in terms of how to be compliant with the COVID protocol. So what Vicki had mentioned earlier on, heavily recommend that, we need to appoint a specific staff to be, the COVID officer at school. So I don't want to use the word policing, but I think we do need somebody like that to ensure that everyone is sort of complying to the protocol that's in place. Otherwise, there's no point. We have a protocol we need to implement, okay? And we need to figure out how to closely engage the COVID committee, which I'm gladly to be on at this point, to monitor the latest situation, especially with Delta variants and all the issues that are ongoing. This brings me to the second point, and this is very concerning. So on the 23rd of August, and this is a very, very big concern. You see the share screen that I have here. Teachers of IIA receive a flyer from our superintendent stating the following, that the wearing a mask raises carbon dioxide, remind them that they do not need to wear a mask outside. Children won't know about carbon dioxide buildup. This is clearly a misinformation type of flyer, and it should not be circulated among teachers and within the school. It's clearly opposite from what we have stated in the approved protocol. In our protocol, we state the fact that children are still encouraged to keep their masks on while they're playing outdoors, especially in situations that they're not able to keep with social distancing. And we know kids, they play very closely with one another, they're going to forget about social distancing. In fact, they may not even understand that. So as a huge advocate of evidence-based medicine, I want to tell you that masking does not pose health risk to children, okay? And circulating this kind of misinformation out there, it's going to be hugely impact our community. There's one scientific study out there from JAMA Pediatrics has already sort of been retracted because there are methodological issues related to the fact that masking can raise carbon dioxide levels. So certainly there's no evidence. For the last year and a half or so, we've got children who are masking. There's ample evidence to show that the children get prevented from illnesses, school absences, and deaths. So I think we need to figure out how to implement the protocol appropriately, have appropriate staff monitoring what's going on in school to avoid any sort of misinformation. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. And I did take a note about, I clearly identified COVID safety officer, and we'll have discussions about that as a board too. Thank you. Mary, thank you for both of those ideas and the letter. Mary Beth, who's next?
Minnie K.
Minnie. Yep, it's hi. Thank you to the board and Dr. Scott and Principal Chong. My name is Minnie Walia. I work in the corporate sales field, and my husband.
I'm Deepak. I'm also practicing chiropractor.
So we won't. First of all, we want to thank you again. We come from a school where almost, I think there's 15 kids in the school, from the school that we're coming on board because we believe in what you all have started. And this is extremely tough. It is a new process, and we do understand that. So first of all, we want to thank you for everything that you guys have done to be able to create this. Now, with respect to kind of making sure that, we grow this school and have a fantastic reputation, there's definitely some concerns in terms of safety. We won't talk about the same things that the parents have already shared, but I think there's something else that, my husband can highlight, and one more thing on communication.
First, thank you for also having this platform so that other parents are also communicating what their concerns. I think that's very important for this new school so that we're able to kind of get to the bottom line. I'm not going to reiterate what the other parents have said, but one of the things that I did note was two things. I tried to get a hold of the school, and again, I got Dr. Scott's phone number, and one of the suggestions I was going to make is if we could do like a cell phone where parents could even text. If we can't get a hold of you guys, maybe just keep it in the office, not take it home, obviously, but there might be a easier way to also communicate if we're not getting a hold of someone. So someone is reading the messages, getting back to us, or something along those lines. Second, we have a first grader and a third grader in the school. And one thing I noticed is when I go to pick up my first grader, he's already out in the playground and coming towards, there's nobody accounting for him or signing out for him. So there has to be a transition plan where, we also kind of can talk to the kids and say, hey, you can't go somewhere. And, with the third graders, yes, they stay with their friends and everything along those lines. But it seems like the first grader, that's where the playground is, and everyone kind of just goes out. And he just kind of came towards the parking lot, and I was asking where his, teachers were, and
So the school's not fenced fully. They're young. We understand there's a cutoff at some point, but anybody can pick them up and be able to take them, and there's traffic on that street. So I think there needs to be better procedures with some of the younger kids to be able to how to pick them up. And the website's extremely dated. We need to have a clarity in communication with parents on how to get to this school. I think there's a direct number, which I did get from Dr. Scott, but I think all the procedures, COVID procedures, what happens, how you communicate, these are things that need to be updated on a website, and I'm part of PTO. So there is a way to do that. There is a way to update the website pretty quickly with respect to some of these things. I'm not sure if anybody's, assigned to that. Two, I think there's all eyes on y'all, gentlemen and ladies, that there is the teachers, that this is supposed to be a higher standard education with respect to Mandarin. communication of the teachers. We do understand it takes time to set that structure, but right now there's not a lot of communication with teachers coming, especially Mandarin teachers, coming to the parents as to what are we working on, how are we working on. You guys have a fabulous curriculum. We're not communicating how we're going to be bringing that to life and what the vision is. So I think that's concerning. If the school shuts down, it's very hard to make sure that we don't keep moving our kids back and forth. So we want to make sure that we see the school succeed. So it's really important that the communication piece is tight and safety procedures are tight.
Well, thank you. And what's nice is our receiving of these comments help us with our priorities, and I'm hearing some themes. So this is really very, very helpful. And I hadn't missed the theme of communication, and even the simplest one of the static 949 number, and then what happens after that as well. So thank you. And again, I appreciate, I know you share some of the same COVID concerns and the detail. You have the knowledge to share the same detail that the other doctors did, but thank you for not repeating it. But yeah, you used your time well. Thank you for that. Mary Beth, who's next?
Edwin Chu.
Edwin Chi?
Hi.
Oh yeah.
Hi, members of the board. Hi, members of the board. Thank you for this time. Thank you for this opportunity. I am a parent of a child at IIA, and I'm going to be frank with you. This is related to the COVID issues, but it's a little bit more specific. I have a written statement, so I'm going to kind of read off of that, but not. I'm concerned about the personal views of Superintendent Scott putting my child and all of IIA at risk. I do question his judgment and leadership due to this. In July, there was a school tour where I believe he indicated his personal views, one such stating that children have a 0% chance of contracting COVID. He also said that wearing a mask increases CO2 in children's lungs. He also commented on one parent's N95 mask, saying that that's the only type of mask to ward off a virus, essentially mocking the rest of the parents in the classroom. I want to note too to the board that Superintendent Scott is often not wearing a mask. He's often wearing a face shield or nothing at all, such as at the grand opening event. I did speak to this board on August 11th, asking for protocols to be in place. That was about 1 week before school started. Nothing in place yet. And I was well aware that there was a COVID committee comprised of medical doctors that were working on the mandates that were mandated by the state. The protocols were finally sent out the night before, or the afternoon before. And in reading that, I have concerns that Mr. Scott's personal views were indicated on there. Also, again, commenting on N95 masks and making himself the final person to deal with mask enforcement. Not a liaison, not the principal. On the first day of school, Mr. Scott was seen in the classroom, again, not following the protocol. One of the protocols indicates that wearing a face shield needs to have a drape attached to it. I immediately went and talked to him and informed him about that. In doing so, I was actually appalled by the response I got from him, where I felt like he was trying to discredit my comments, asking if I was a medical doctor, which I clearly stated I was not, saying that that he was incapable of transmitting COVID because he has already had COVID and has natural immunity. He also mentioned that he has until October 1st to fully implement the protocols, which a quick search on CDPH states that the state mandates for K through 12 schools is effective immediately. And I know someone else commented on this later. Oh, also, a parent did bring him the drapes, and I don't believe anyone has seen him wear those. And then, as someone mentioned this, I also saw that document commenting on CO2. It was from Mr. Scott. You saw it, Mr. Houston, but it did say wearing a mask raises CO2. And it also encourages children to go outside and take off their masks, which the protocols, which were sent by Mr. Scott, actually say masks are to be encouraged, but not required when outdoors. It doesn't say encourage them to take it off. So in conclusion, I am asking the board to look into Mr. Scott's actions. No matter one's personal beliefs, it is my understanding that state mandates are to be followed by the school, period. Parents at IIA expect the guidelines to be followed. I would hate for IUSD, who is loaning us the school site, or state agencies who fund IIA to be made aware of that a staff here is openly defying the mandates. If a student or staff were to become infected, I fear what could happen if a parent were to enact legal actions. So I'm just asking that the board please look into this, and I'm also asking on record that the board provide a comment and response to this to all of us, the staff and the parents. Nothing in closing. I want it in public, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Edwin. And policy enforcement is our role, and so we hear you. We may have to get a communication for the clarity. There are safety protocols that are law that come from the Department of Health, the County Department of Health. And of course, we fully want to comply with those. There are also state laws that have timetables. One may be a little bit confused, so we'll clarify. Public school teachers have a mandate that is has to be implemented by October 12th that relates to vaccination. I wonder if there's some confusion about the two different. We know that county protocols are immediate, and we intend and should be following all of those. Hopefully we're not conflating the two, because there's been a lot of talk about a mandate for public teachers to be vaccinated. That isn't due until October 12th, although many districts are implementing it immediately, but they don't have to. So that's a different topic, probably. Just nod if that's not your topic. Okay, good. Then we'll stay focused on what you said here about us doing our policy and not supplementing with that personal views.
Correct. I just want to make sure that personal views are not taking away from IIA. We expect a certain amount from the leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to hear from the next one. I'll get from Mary Beth as well. And there'll be a day where we're probably largely through all of this, and we're focused more on the core of education too. But it is the issue right now in public education. So thank you for these comments. Who's next, Mary Beth?
Next is Steve Wayne.
Steve Wynn?
Wayne.
Steve, are you able to do? There you
I'm
are.
here. Yeah. Do you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to read this. I have a lot to get through. Okay.
Thank you.
Dear IIA Board, less than 24 hours before the start of classes, a comprehensive COVID protocol was finally approved by this board and sent to parents, with a declaration from the superintendent that it is not a personal belief, but follows the current law. Let me be clear. The law states that can you hear me? Let me be clear. The law states that universal masking is required for California and Orange County TK to 12 schools to open the 2021 to 22 school year in person. And IIA likely has stricter obligations under its lease with IUSD. Now, I was one of those on the committees who combed through hundreds of pages of guidance and regulations to develop the IIA COVID protocol, only to be undercut at the last minute by the superintendent, who placed himself as the final authority for enforcing universal masking. Since that time, very little has been done to enact and enforce the IIA COVID protocol. Rather than mandating universal masking and uniformly enforcing the mask policy as advised by the OCDE lawyer, some students are allowed to wear mesh masks, an administrator is allowed to wear a face shield without a drape, and some families are told that they do not need to wear a mask at all. Rather than providing the protocol to teachers immediately and educating them on their vital role in ensuring that students are wearing acceptable, properly fit masks, they are instead provided handouts erroneously claiming the dangers of CO2, and they are encouraged to model taking masks off while outside. The lunch situation is appalling. Children are crammed together in an inadequate number of lunch tables, unmasked and without physical distancing. To my knowledge, there is no COVID liaison, the one role that is explicitly required by law. There are few, if any, signs that state masks are required. There's not a single mention of the COVID protocol on the website. And what about COVID vaccines? Is IIA planning to downplay that state mandate? I understand that it is due for full compliance October 15th, But are we going to ignore those too and open up the school to Cal OSHA litigation and workers' comp claims? Let me conclude with a few excerpts from Dr. Thomas Aragon, director of CDPH, in his memo to all school leaders dated August 23rd, 2021. To be clear, failure to enforce the mask requirement breaches not only a legal duty, but also the first and foremost duty of every school leader to protect students. Violation of mandatory public health guidance puts the health and safety of students, staff, and their families needlessly at risk and also carries significant legal, financial, and other risks. School and school leaders involved in the decision could face significant financial liability if a student or staff member contracts COVID-19 in the absence of universal masking being enforced. Schools and school officials involved in the decision not to follow the mandatory public health guidance may face civil lawsuits by concerned families and staff. Certificated individuals, including school administrators, may be subject to referral to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing for disciplinary action for violating a mandatory legal duty to implement the masking requirement and knowingly exposing students to preventable harm. Finally, schools and school officials may be subject to fines or civil enforcement actions by local health officers for refusal to adhere to the mandatory masking directive. So going back to the timeline, everything that I've read says that this should be enforced immediately. This is the way that they said that we can go back to in-person instruction. Okay, there's no time, there's no grace period for that. In order to come back for in-person full-time instruction, this was the requirement. And I do want to send you guys the guidance from the Department of Public Health, because it's unequivocal. There is case law after case law, it's all cited there. So I want all of the board members to read this carefully, all the staff to read this carefully, and probably all the parents to know kind of what we can do if they're not followed correctly.
Thank you for giving us that perspective as well with the legal liability as well, Steve. Thank you. By the way, public comments in some situations are tolerated. That's not our approach. We care about what you're saying and take it both to heart, and we'll make sure it's action as well. That's the attitude of our board. So thank you, Steve. Mary Beth, who's next?
Anna.
Say it one more time. Anna. Anna, would you share with us, please?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
All right. So I'm not going to be talking about COVID, but I have a statement. Okay, my kids, I was so excited that I got to enroll my children in this school, but I learned a few things last week that really bothered me. I learned that the main reason charter schools fail is due to financial mismanagement that results from a lack of oversight. I know that proper management and oversight of the budget in a company is the difference between long-term success and immediate failure. I found out that Dr. Scott's last charter school failed 6 months after the school started because of financial mismanagement, in addition to other reasons. Hundreds of students and families had to pay for this irresponsibility in undue stress as they scrambled to another school in the middle of the school year. This is not something that anyone in this school would want. Last week, I volunteered at the school. I, along with other parents, asked the teachers if there was anything that they needed in terms of supplies. We assumed that they would state the obvious wishes, like an iPad or Chromebook. To our shock, the teachers asked for basic office supplies, like staplers, staples, and paper clips. Some teachers had to bring supplies from their homes to use it in the classroom, which I personally think is unacceptable. From a previous board meeting, I found out that Dr. Scott is getting paid over $200,000 a year, which is well above the geographically adjusted rate of $165,000 for a school superintendent who is likely has to manage more than just one school. I don't understand how somebody could get paid that much, but then the school doesn't have enough money to hire aides and purchase staplers. How else is the school excessively spending its money when it can't provide the fundamental tools teachers need to do their jobs? To this point, I and my fellow IIA parents would like to know what exactly is in the IIA budget. What are the line item categories and budgeted amounts And how has the money been spent? There needs to be oversight and transparency in the financials, including close examination of where IIA's money has been allocated and where and to whom the money has been spent. We all want to see the school succeed. We all have given up places in our own really awesome schools at IUSD. And none of us would want to see history repeat itself again.
Thank you, Anna. And you may hear, if you stay with our board meeting, there'll be a small segment on finances, and Delano Jones will give an update. The board receives balance sheet and income statement. So we do have great oversight, but you can just tune in on that part as well. Thank you. But concerning, I'm sure, to us is basic supplies, and we'll follow up to make sure that's not a parent burden, that's not a teacher burden, school burden. And so thank you for.
Actually, can I have another question, Doug. Whose responsibility is it for these basic school supplies? Is it the school's responsibility? Because I don't think we as parents have brought a lot of supplies, that the teachers ask for, but that's for our children to use in the classroom. But I don't think the teachers should be responsible for buying their own school supplies. I think that is something that the school should be providing for their employees. They're not independent contractors.
You're right about that. Yeah, you're correct. Good. Thank you. Mary Beth, who's next?
Next is Patrick McNally. Patrick McNally.
Yeah, let's see. I'm just looking at my screen. Are they on video?
Oh, he said, I hand delivered a letter to Principal Trong on Monday. Just want to confirm that they received a letter.
Okay.
Okay. Next is Sale Bawani.
I'm sorry, this is Patrick McNally
Patrick,
here.
go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, no, I just had just an answer to my question. Was it received by Principal Chong and the board members and Dr. Scott? Principal Chong is present in the meeting. Did you receive that? I handed to
Yes, I gave to Dr. Scott, and Dr. Scott opened and read the letter. Yes.
And has it been shared with the board members? I gather the answer is no. Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Mary Beth, should I pass the letter to you to send or not?
No.
Okay, it's still on my desk.
We'll make sure, Patrick, that that gets distributed tonight to the board members. And if you'll give us permission either through Superintendent Scott or directly from me as a board, I can gather the reflection from our board members. But sorry about timeliness on that one. But if you'll give us time to read that, we'll respond to you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you much. Bye-bye.
You got it.
Okay. Next, Jen Cho, go ahead.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Jen. I am a kinder parent. First of all, I just want to thank Principal Chuang and the IA team so much. I know it was a huge lift from everyone to just even open the school. And so I was very impressed with just, everything that and all the hard work and the love that's been put into making it happen. Also want to give gratitude to my son's kinder teachers. Like I personally saw her, being wonderful with the students and making sure they were learning their protocols and enjoying school. And then on top of that, also making sure that kids who didn't have masks got one, giving gentle reminders to students and things like that. And so I think, and when she even sent a message to parents to remind them to reinforce the policies. And so I think she's been doing a great job. And so in the kind of microcosm that I've been seeing, I've been really happy to see that in action. Especially, my son's coming out of 18 months of being at home. So I was a little worried about going to school. So especially happy he's like, oh, I'm doing it. I guess my ask is, I actually didn't know, I've never been to another board meeting before, so I didn't know the information that Anna had shared. But broadly speaking, I've been working in education. I know, a lot of charter schools do have financial challenges, and that's part of the challenge of starting a new school and not having the support of the district. I know the folks at Yuming Charter School, which is a established Mandarin immersion charter school up in NorCal. And I just wanted to share out, I just put in the chat box, the way that they've established transparency for their community. I mean, essentially, it's just like a nice website, but it has things like being really transparent on the COVID protocol, so that it's really up there for everyone to see our community. But also more broadly, I think it will really help our reputation, being known as a very well thought through on all the measures, but COVID-19, as the board chair mentioned, that's top of mind for many people, so that includes that, but also all the financials, as Anna had mentioned. I think as parents, we understand those of us who do have the means, if we can contribute, and it's a brand new school, I think we came with some expectation of that. I think it would boost everyone's confidence and make people more encouraged to support it if we kind of just had a clear guideline of like, how much are we going to be asked for? What are the things, like what is the school covering? We just got a message about this like online platform that we individually will be paying for, or we need to. And I just think if it's coming from a place of IIA having a very clear and transparent budget, especially it being a public charter school and needing to abide by the Brown Act and sort of all those things, but that we're even like just proactively doing that, I feel like that will help everyone be at ease, be more likely to contribute if they can. Certainly, I'm sure also as a public school, there may be families who can't contribute, and that's also fine. But I also think like a lot of these amazing charter schools get outside grant funding, and I think just again, all of this being on our website, I think will also encourage funders to trust the school and the environment. And I think we'll just make everything run more smoothly. And I know, it's only been a couple weeks. So I think now is the perfect time to get that started and to really set us up effectively, because I'm very excited for my kid to graduate from IIA one day and to be an alumni who's carrying the IIA message and brand through, throughout life. But again, so that's my suggestion. Again, thank you all for all the great work you've been doing.
Thank you. And we'll take that suggestion to heart as well. I jumped over to that website, and nearly everything on that accountability page is something our board members have access to on a shared online source. But this is my commitment, we'll turn that around and expose it on our own website. It's so well laid out by the Yuming School. And so thank you, great suggestion. Let me do a survey. We've hit 30-minute mark for public comments. Let me see how many we still have, and I'll see who has to do them now, because we do reserve some time at the end. How many more do we have that would like to do public comments, or did we hit them all?
No, we have maybe 10 more.
10 more? Okay. I'm wondering if those that have comments would be willing to hold those till our second public comment so we could get through some of the other board agendas. Is there anyone that this is a burning moment and you've just got to get it in now, and you got something pending that would prevent you from doing it? We'll entertain yours now, but I have that tension where I do want public comments and our parents for sure, but we do have to get to some transactional things today. Anyone that absolutely has to right now, could you just indicate that, turn your mic on and say, Board Chair Doug, this is my only moment?
Can you hear me? This is Sahel Bawani.
Yes, go ahead.
Would you mind if I can make my comments? I'm actually representing a whole community of parents here that are coming from a specific school, a Frontiers Academy, and I think that a lot of what was said today resonated with our group of parents. But I just have kind of two statements I can read, if you don't mind.
Please do.
We would like to address parent-teacher communication, and we appreciate having access to multiple platforms and options, but it can be a bit overwhelming when it comes to ensuring that we don't miss any communications. Right now, one teacher is emailing us. We haven't heard anything at all from the Mandarin teacher. There has been no communication from one teacher, lots of communication from another teacher, for example. I'm getting the same thing in my, I have 2 children enrolled in the school. One is a first grader, one's in 3rd grade. I haven't heard much from the Mandarin teachers, and we're here because of Mandarin immersion. We'd like to know what's happening with the curriculum. Are they being assessed right now? Where we are hearing that they aren't being spoken to in Mandarin, but it could just be hearsay. So in addition, would it be possible to dedicate at least one official location where all the communication can be posted? Maybe we hear that there's a Google Classroom in the works. If you can confirm or deny it, then homework can be posted there. Parents can see what the projects and upcoming homework is from all the classes. Right now, it's just kind of all over the place. And we're just checking in with each other to figure out what was due and what's not due. Several parents have enrolled their children in the after school program with the understanding that the children that are there for 3 hours would be able to finish their homework there. It would be much appreciated if the teachers can communicate homework assignments to both the parents as well as the after school program teachers so that everyone is aware of the required assignments and we can help our students succeed. That was a major concern as far as education and curriculum. I also wanted to say that, you know, I've had, as far as safety, I've had different people pick up my kids from school. No one's checked to see who actually was picking up the kids from school. And it just seems like anyone can just walk up on campus and pick up the kids from school right now. I don't have anybody really registered. So one day it was my husband, another day it was somebody else. And I was a little concerned, like, is that really okay? The second thing is I got a call that my son needed to go home, but I missed the call and went on the website to try to look for a phone number. And I recognized Dr. Scott's number, but there was no school phone number. And it was an emergency. I needed to call the school to try to pick up my son from school. And I really couldn't reach anybody. That was another safety concern. And so just wanted to address communication, teacher communication, and some of the safety concerns.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Anyone else in that same category where time is of the essence for you, we would slice you in quickly. I know my board members, they're volunteers and dedicated, but parents, you are a priority to us. So Marty, you're nodding your head. Is there something you'd like to go ahead and slice in?
Yeah, thank you so much, Board Chair. My name is Marty. I'm a first grader's parent. You know, everything that has been discussed so far, were mentioned so far by the parents, are grave concerns to me and my wife. You know, we understand that for the board, for the superintendent, for the principal, to the teacher, the students, our kids, are the most important thing to us, right? We want to make sure they're in an environment that they can grow, they can learn in a safe manner, right? So I just want to reiterate a lot of the concerns and remind the board that you have a fiduciary duty to everyone, Okay, everyone on the call that is not on the call, to the students. It's not just about that financial liability or, you know, things like that. You know, the California Department of Public Health mentioned about COVID, but it's about our education, right? So I implore you, you know, I remember there was one parent that talked about investigation. I remember there was one parent talking about budget. We really want to see something happening because even though it's only the second week, but second week to a young children, that's a long time. They already made friends. They love the teachers. They love the principal. They love their environment. But, you know, as parents, we have the ability to make a judgment call to see in the long run, can we actually trust the school and the board to do what is right? So I really implore you to look into it. And one last thing I'll mention is that we don't want to wait another month for another board meeting, we really want to see action. You know, the public comments, we want to see the public comment. If I may be so bold to say by the end of this week, because we really want to know what is going on. And we really want to be on the side of the school. We, as you know, we put in, you know, donated equipment, buying, you know, things, we can do that, no problem. However, we can do as parents to help our kids succeed, help the school succeed in the first year, it's amazing, right? We love it. But we really want to see the board to step up. We really want to see, you know, the principal and the teacher being supported. So I'll end it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you. And just, you may know this, Marty, too, and the others too, but 3 of our board members and then our superintendent through grandchildren, but 3 of our board members have children in the school. And thank you. They share that same immediacy that you emphasize. Let's move on. If parents, those that have other comments, I do see some in the chat line. I will, even if you're not here, I'll read those at our second parent and public comments. If you'll permit me to move on then, and thank you, Jen, for putting your child on the board meeting. It's our first student attended. We're gonna make you an honorary board member, I think. So that's cute. That just made my day, to be honest. Being here in the after school program, hearing all the children and everything was just a joy. Parents, public, if you give us the opportunity to go to closed session, it won't be long. By long, I mean probably 7 to 10 minutes, no more than 10. We have contracts to approve, and those are private. In a sense, as you know, the public contract is Dr. Scott's, but all the others for our employees are done in closed session and discussed by the board. So let's go to a closed session for about 10 minutes. We'll return and then we'll complete our agenda. But thank you, everybody, especially parents. So we're going to disappear for a moment and be in our own private Zoom meeting for a moment.
Hey, Doug, we can put this in a closed session.
Here we go. Great. And let me leave the break room. Here we go. All right, we're back in main session. Welcome back to all the public and parents joining us as well. Coming out of closed session, we have 3 employee contracts that were discussed and approved. And so I want to report out those that were on the agenda. Are they on the agenda by name?
No.
Okay. I don't know that we need to state those by name. But all 3 contracts approved as written too. So next then for us on our board agenda, Pledge of Allegiance. And we have a flag here. It's to my right. And so I will lead a Pledge of Allegiance here. I haven't stood up in a while and I'm going to have to stand up for this. And so if you would follow me, I know it's a little awkward. You can say it in your heart or out loud. So I cover my heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we get a opportunity to hear a update from our superintendent, Dr. Scott, and then we're privileged we have Delano Jones of Athena, which will give us a financial update as well. But Dr. Scott, updates you'd like to share with the board and or public?
Yes, the school has been improving continually in what we're offering. Our teachers have done a wonderful job in starting off this year, and the only thing we've lacked is enough time to meet together as teams and teachers, because everyone's been working so hard to catch on the start. New materials, first year, familiarity with materials, but they're reaching out, and the kids are very excited in the classrooms. We have installed a complete 9 Yamaha pianos in our piano lab, and children in TK and up are doing lessons with the Orange County teacher. In addition, there's been a purchase of $25,000 worth of musical equipment for music lessons. And that is thanks to the Larry and Helen Hogue Foundation grant that we received. Also, we are doing in-services in our science program, which is TWIG, which encourages hands-on science. A grant that we received from the K Family Foundation is allowing us to hire a full-time science coordinator to work with our Mandarin teachers to have science in Mandarin, because of the great advances that are coming from both countries, English and Mandarin. It'll have our kids at a top. So the coordinator is going to be working with weekly and more hands-on experiments and studying. And the work is going to be translated into Mandarin for the science curriculum. So that's moving forward. Additionally, we hired a coordinator for the science program who also works with us in the on the committee for protocols. Dr. Vo is a parent here of children at the school, but he has his degree from Stanford, a degree from Harvard, Oklahoma Medical School, and did a thesis at Oxford, England. So he's been giving guidance into the science curriculum and program organization. The school itself, our teachers have spent a lot of time purchasing decorations to make the school engaging for the children. Our school has been providing them a reimbursement of $100 for the work that they're doing in their classroom. They turn in their receipts and we have been repaying them $100. I know I never got any money when I was a teacher, so we really respect our teachers and want them to know how appreciated we are for their hard work in preparing the room. Let's see. As far as our budget work has done, there's been a tremendous amount of work from our office staff in setting up all these employees, 25, I believe, full-time employees. For human resources and payroll, we've had some wonderful work. I'll mention Kim. She was a retired Orange County payroll specialist for all the community colleges, has trained literally thousands of people in payroll, and she has stepped in to help organize our human resources and payroll in a way that has Athena, our back office accounting provider, ecstatic with the results, so that we're taking great care of our staff. And that includes even Principal Stephen Chuang, who, besides all the academic responsibility he has been working to serve our teachers in their health and benefits. And I appreciate that very much, that extra effort he's put in. We have been working hard on COVID compliance. We have simple following rules. Required masks are inside, and masks are not required outside according to the law and policy from Orange County Department of Ed. It is Orange County Department of Ed that we're authorized by, not Irvine Unified School District. We are separate from them. But we appreciated so much. There's been so many things to have to nail down before we started. The work that was done in developing the protocols, they took a lot of material and narrowed it down. We'll be putting that up on the website so people can watch, see the protocols as they're suggested. On far as testing, as Doug pointed out earlier, October 15th is the date to put together teachers' policies on vaccines, where the state requires teachers to be vaccinated or they have to be tested weekly. Today, I just closed a deal talking with a company that will provide saliva testing weekly for our teachers. So we are all set to comply with the deadline on October 1st, not the 15th. Thank you very much. I'm sure there's a lot of more good things to say. I have to admit, I love seeing the engagement of our students and the teachers. And as soon as we can get past more of these administrative deadlines and hurdles that we face, we look forward to going into the classroom and adding our experiences to make the school teachers even more engaging for the students. The students have been great. They've tried to help in every way possible. Thank you.
Yeah, great update. Board members, any questions? You'll have opportunity for recommendations for superintendent later, but any questions on the update? Great, reading everybody's body language then. Business and fiscal update. Just give everybody an update. We formed a financial committee from the board that will work with our company that not only assisted us in creating our first year budget, well, it's a multi-year budget actually, but Delano Jones from Athena will generally be available to us during board meetings, which is really nice. And then ultimately one of our members from the financial committee will do an update each week. The board received our financial statements from Athena, but they have a couple of questions for you, Delano. But by way of introduction again, would you just share with everybody your background with charter schools and what Athena does in general for us? And then we got a couple of questions from the board members that we'll share with you and ask for an update.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Board President Doug House. And good evening, everyone. Good evening, board members. My name is Delano Jones, and to the members of the public, I am contracted to provide business and fiscal services to Irvine International Charter School. We at Athena have been in the industry over 15 years, providing all back office services, a turnkey almost in a sense, to upstart charter schools that have been existing, well established, as well as some successful in terms of coming from a conversion school. Overall, most of what we provide in terms of day-to-day operations supports what exactly you see that goes on in the classroom, what goes on in the office, as well as operational matters as well, including payroll and things of that nature. We support the school in a number of endeavors, obviously in terms of not just the school, but also the board itself in terms of budget development, obviously centered around making sure that we have a balanced budget and things of that nature. Not sure what else I can offer you in terms of a little bit of background, but just trust and know that I am experienced in having done this, as I mentioned, for over 15 years in a variety of capacities. We were very successful with getting Irvine International approved via Orange County Department of Ed. And now obviously we're serving in the role as providers of those services to the school. If I can quickly segue, and I know we've sort of been at this for a while, there were plenty of quite informative, and I might add, public comments. And so I really wanted to just make sure that the board have time to address everyone's concern. But I will jump into the financial review really quick if there's time for that. And I'll take questions. Obviously, I know Board Chair, you said there were questions from the board, so I'll yield to those questions now and then go from there.
One question that Rose Delano was, at what month would we expect to see in the income the reimbursements for the state of California for our average daily attendance? So would that naturally come in October or November?
So the way that the funding works, and I will certainly provide some training to the finance committee specifically, but also in generally to this body as well. Meaning that the financials, the way that funding works in most K-12 schools, in particular charter schools, it's not what you would consider your routine revenues in on a monthly basis. The way that funding will work in your first year is that you will get an advanced apportionment, which will be equal to about 30, and I don't want to get into the meat and potatoes here, but I'll just give you a quick example. You get roughly about 37% of your revenues advanced to you on or about October. You will then get another advance of 37% on or around December. And then you will then get into the normal funding stream based on your average daily attendance, to your point, around February, when that first period of attendance is certified. Subsequently from that, there's a second attendance period in April that will then become the official attendance for the entire school year. So essentially, all of our revenues are generated from attendance that's finalized in April of 2022, which is, help me here, about 7 months from now, give or take. So it's well into next year before we'll actually know what those final numbers are, which will officially represent our revenues for the 2021 school year. And I can show you that in the budget and things like that, obviously. But it takes a while to sort of get your heads wrapped around all of these moving parts, because next year, when you're in your second year, the funding looks a little bit different. It's much more now consistent because you will have prior year ADA on which to advance you during the early part of the year.
Great. No, that's the detail level we're looking for. Board members, there was one or two other questions. Would you want to posit those two Delano before he does a summary review of finances? Glenn, do a repeat of that if you would, please, and you may have to unmute.
Sorry, Doug, Glenn. So Doug, I know that both Ethan and I are meeting with Delano this week, right, to go through the financials on a deeper dive, right, to get a better understanding of the expenses, where they're going, income, where it's going, and payroll, and then also the multiple grants that are coming into the school and making sure they're being spent in the correct fashion, right, both and how that's being recorded, right, because we're just getting our first eyes on the financials this week, right, so and that's the first time I've seen it was actually tonight, right, where I saw the first financials and both the balance sheet, income statement going forward. So we'll get our first eyes on it and then provide feedback back to Delano to make sure we're getting the right reports and transparency out, both to the board and all the parents, which will then be posted on the website.
Thank you, Glenn. Ethan, go ahead, Delano.
Yeah, so and I will say that our first to Glenn's point, the first finance committee meeting where we'll take a dive into not just the financial, but also the budget as well. And I am going to briefly talk about the budget, and I believe if someone has the agenda, I believe it's the next discussion item that I have will be the budget itself. I will present it to you, and I guess this may be a good segue to that, or if you want to go over the July financials, I could do that first. I do not have the agenda in front of me.
This is the time, but let's hear Ethan's comment beforehand, because that might sharpen your focus too.
Wonderful, Delano. Looking forward to working with you this Thursday. At the finance committee. One thing I realized the budget was set with different projections of enrollment. The enrollment is different. It's going to probably continue to fluctuate. That I do understand. But one thing is what I'm specifically looking for this Thursday, as this budget it's an ongoing process, especially as a brand new school. But there are ratios that absolutely needs to be adhered to. Overhead ratios, payroll ratios, fixed expense ratios. There are ratios, whether or not there's, X amount of students or a lot of students or lower amount of students. Those ratios I will be looking to work with you so that we won't wait another month or 2 months and 3 months as we really sharpen it up. But those are the major things looking for. And thank you, Glenn, join the finance committee as well. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ethan.
Great. Yeah, Delano, if you could give us a snapshot of what you provided. I know public is probably like, well, this is the part that they maybe go yawn. This is the part we're really interested in. I'm a numbers guy, but take us through that if you could, at least at a high level. And I think that also is nice for transparency, Delano. You heard earlier, we anticipate putting our entire budget up on the website. Certainly it's a public document already with the county, but we're going to expose that on the website so it's easy, and then we'll do our financials up there as well. But go ahead and take us through this if you would.
Can you zoom in a little bit more?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, do one more zoom click for me.
How about that?
Sound good?
Yep. Thank you.
Does that work?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. With each zoom, it sort of runs off the page a little bit, but hopefully this will get us lined up here. So I will preface all of this to say that this represents the budget that was, right? And what I mean by that is this budget, when first developed, we were 6 months down the road, right? In terms of getting approval, et cetera, from Orange County. Over that time, one of the challenges that we face, as a first-year school is hitting, this benchmark number here, right? There are a bunch of moving parts that goes along with this in terms of what estimates we provide early in the school year. In fact, before school even starts, we have to provide an estimated enrollment to the state. Remember that 37% of the revenues I mentioned earlier? So in order for them to provide that 37%, they're going to say, hey, Irvine International, can you estimate for us with some reasonable assurance what your enrollment will be come the first day of school? And keep in mind, so we're circling back now to early July, right? So we have to estimate what that will be, right? And then, and again, the approach to this is, how conservative do we want to be, because that impacts the revenues we get as a result of that. So let's just say we thought we were going to get 500 students. We couldn't put on here reasonably that we're going to have 600 students, right? Or we wouldn't want to put that we're going to only have 100 students, right? So we want to put, a number that's lower than what we anticipate, but higher than what we're hoping in terms of, okay, if the worst case scenario comes out, what does that look like? Prefacing that to say that because, when this 97% attendance rate yields about 360.84 ADA. Now, keep in mind, as I mentioned before, the way that this is structured, this 360 is the number that we're looking to have come April of 2022, because that's when your attendance is officially finalized. It's when the state will say, this is the number that we will pay you on in terms of true enrollment in ADA. The rest of this projection to the right are just projections here for context purposes to show you what we have in terms of enrollment down the road. And overall, we budgeted 372 students. As of today, we are below this 372 enrollment number, which obviously would automatically for me trigger a budget adjustment. And so much has happened, and I'm doing a lot more talking, in terms of looking at these numbers, but I will tell you these things. A lot has transpired since this was developed to where we are now, right? Because staff has been hired, expenditures and things like that have been incurred, right? So there are a number of things that have come to fruition, known and unknown, right? If I could say it that way, as a result. So overall, if we're looking here again on 360 ADA, you're looking at roughly 97% attendance rate for the entire school year. And again, that the attendance rate is measured by if you take one student and they attend 97% of the school year, they would count for 0.97 ADA, right? As opposed to a student who would say, if you're following that format. Down here, we have some of your funding rates. And as you can see here, you can see what those look like. You're funded on a number of things. The biggest piece of your revenue comes from your local property taxes. And because Irvine School District sits in what is considered a much more higher property value area, those property tax dollars or property tax rate will be higher than in some cases. And so what happens here is that there's an offset with this, right? So you will hear me talk about something called your LCFF funding, which is the local control funding formula. That consists of your state aid, your education protection account, which is a smaller amount of revenues, and then your in lieu of property tax. Those three amounts comprise what I would consider your biggest piece of your funding. In fact, in most schools, they represent roughly 70 to 80% of the funding that they will get. In your case here, most of those dollars will come from your local property tax because those numbers far out exceed what you will get from the state, right? So there's only an offset there where the state will say, well, your property tax cover the bulk of it. Here's what we're going to fund you to make up that difference. And you can see what those rates are here in terms of what it equates to. You also have a few other streams of funding for special ed and things like that. And again, as I mentioned, your EPA here, you can see that dollar amount. There are a number of other factors that goes into funding as well, and it's based upon the makeup of your student population. Most of the time you'll hear someone say your free and reduced price meal, your EL counts, things like that, your English learners, things like that. So those things also generate funding of various types. Most of your federal funding will be generated from the percentages or the makeup of your students in these categories or these subcategories. For your particular district, it's roughly 12% free and reduced and another 25% English language learners. You're charged about a 1% oversight fee from your authorizer. And again, that 1% covers, again, oversight. And oversight is a pretty broad term, and we'll talk more about that as we go through the course of the year and what that means, not just to the board, but also to the school and to your stakeholders as well, which I can see, based on the attendance tonight, quite a bunch. In terms of folks who I would consider the integral part of your school, because they are the bread and butter in terms of the heart, the pulse beat of your support comes from your stakeholders, your parent population, etc. I'll quickly drop down to page 3, which gives us a little insight into the staffing. And I will have to shrink this down a little bit just so you can see the rest of this page here. As you can see, as of this budget, we budgeted for 13 teachers, 2 certificated administrators, which would be a superintendent and a principal, which puts us about 17 certificated full-time staff, 6 full-time instructional aides, and that would be the equivalent of some part-time, some full-time, netting to that 6. These numbers I suspect may have changed by now. I know that they're still in the process of hiring. And again, this is when all this will be vetted in terms of what actually now comprises your staff, especially on the classified side. Overall here, as you can see, a total of 12 FTEs for that, bring the total number of staff at the school to 27 FTEs. Related to that are salaries and benefits. As you can see here, 1.2 million total certificated dollars for certificated staff, another 403,000 for classified staff, total of about 1.6 million in terms of salaries. You talk about benefits, and again, in your first year, most of these are estimated to a large degree. There's certain fixed costs, obviously, for STRS, CalSTRS, which is a retirement system. That those are fixed expenditure costs for that. Same with Medicare and Social Security. Your medical benefits, so obviously that's based upon the makeup of the population and the various types of plans that the school will offer. Currently, we have that budgeted at 188,000. Call it 189,000 if you want to round that up. And then obviously, unemployment, workers' compensation, insurance puts your total benefits at 524,000. Overall, looking at your total personnel expenses, which would be your total salaries and benefits, roughly $2,212,000. As we drop down, and again here, you can sort of see now this in a much more vertical view in terms of summary of your revenues. And again, as I mentioned, the LCFF portion is the biggest pieces of your revenue, honing in particular on the in lieu of property taxes, which is the biggest piece of those 3 components. Your total LCFF funding of $3,145,000 in your first year, extremely difficult and based up on your student makeup. Federal funding is probably not in the works for this particular school, just based upon the makeup of the student population, demographically speaking. But obviously, we will apply for these. But in terms of what's yield based upon, again, that makeup of your student body, it will be minimum revenues here. Restricted lottery and unrestricted lottery, obviously, those are things that you will get. Those are all based upon funding rates that have already been established. We have school site fundraising, and then again, obviously, your special education revenues, which is based upon the total ADA of your students multiplied by $619, I believe is the rate. So your overall total revenues here of $3,493,000. And as we get down into the salaries and benefits, as I mentioned here, $2.2 million in terms of overall salaries and benefits. As we look at, turn the page and we look at the curriculum and other expenditures, and again, here, we're estimating quite a bit in terms of what's needed for the school, right? Obviously this is a startup here, so there's quite a bit here. And again, I always caution with, we can plan for just about every contingency, but then there will always be contingencies that comes up that, we could not anticipate for whatever reason. And that comes up every year with a new school. It's akin to having a newborn baby. You can plan for everything, but there's always something that's overlooked or something that come up that you did not anticipate. Overall program expenditures here, $367,924. Most of that, as you can see, going towards core curriculum, supplemental instruction, classroom materials and supplies. And I'll hone in on this a little bit here, because when we talk about classroom materials and supplies, the school did, Irvine International Academy did get a facility from Irvine Unified School District. Obviously, it came with tables and chairs, but obviously, the things that make a classroom, besides the tables and chairs, were just not there, right? So the paper, the pencils, all the decorative items that goes to make a classroom, have that classroom feel, has to be purchased by the school.
Hey, Delano.
Yes.
By the way, this is great. I love this part. I know I want to recognize some parents may be thinking, can we move on? But no, this is part of what it is to have a school board meeting. Is there an object code or a budget code for staplers?
Yes.
That's a little joke, but I know there is. Keep going on, and board members.
I promise we're turning the corner into the home stretch. Dropping down into the operational portion of the budget here. And again, not a whole heck of a lot in your first year. There's certain things that obviously we did not budget for a number of reasons. Number one, we're still going through the COVID pandemic. So there won't be a lot of obviously travel and conferences and things like that. And if those things do in the event come up, obviously, we'll have to rework this budget to find room for them. But we did try to put in most of the things that we anticipated would be big ticket items this year. Obviously, your insurance, which covers property and liability and things like that, not your medical, which I mentioned it was up in the benefits section. We also had mentioned the facilities, the cost of that, roughly $236,000 annually for that space. Equipment rental, copiers, and things of that nature as well. As you can see here, we've budgeted for just about every contingency, consultants of various types to support with the operations, your banking and payroll fees, legal services, audits, substitutes, special education, some non-educational software, contractor services here as well, student recruiting, interest for your factoring is also budgeted in here, communications as well. Your total operational budget, $766,899, small amount of depreciation expenditure. And then obviously your special ed encroachment here as well, which is a fee that you pay to Orange County. I'm sorry, this is your oversight. This is on the wrong line. This should actually be down here. 5873, where is that? Authorizer fees, yeah. So yeah, so this one is your special ed, because there's your authorizer fee. So this one is a special ed encroachment that's charged by Los Angeles County SELPA.
Hey, Delano,
Yes.
$85,000 in financial services. What is that for?
So those are the fees that are paid for your back office services for Athena Advanced Solutions.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm. And I can't see who asked that question because I'm sharing the screen, so I'm not
Delano,
able
it was Glenn Rogers.
Okay, perfect.
May I make a comment real quick?
Hey, Michael, can you give me 1 second to just bottom line this number here really quick, and then we'll then I'll turn it back to the board. Total operational expenses, 1,158,000. If you were to net all of our total expenditures together, 3,370,000, subtracting our revenues from our expenditures leaves us with net income for the year of about $122,000. And again, as I mentioned, this is the budget that was, right? So we're going to come back and redo this budget, revisit it in a way that looks at, one, our current enrollment, two, current staffing that's in place to support that enrollment, and things that have transpired up through this month in terms of things that we know for sure happened in terms of actual expenditures. This is part of the course in a new school, obviously, because your first year is always your toughest year. Your first and second year, to be quite frank, I will not sugarcoat that. Or your, those are the years that, this is what forms the school. This is what really will speak to, hey, is this a successful endeavor in the making, or is this something that will crash and burn? I'm here to tell you that I've seen charters, start off very shaky and have grown to be extremely successful. And I've seen charter schools that have start off extremely successful, and for whatever rhyme or reason took a left turn when they should have turned right. Right. So 122,000 in net income for the year. Obviously, could you hold for a second, please? Thank you. Again, here I won't dive too much into the cash flow because, again, we're still somewhat in the early stages of the year. And again, these numbers are pretty much relatively meaningless at this point because, as I mentioned, this budget will be reworked, and I will share with you then an updated cash flow in terms of actuals and things like that. We'll take any questions that you have on the budget. I can certainly leave this up here if there are questions from the board on it. But as you know, as I mentioned, this will go back for review and also for revision before we bring it back at the September meeting for approval.
Thank you, Delano. I think Michael had a comment, Superintendent Scott did, and then let's have some comments from the board. I want to especially ask the board, Finance Committee is probably aware, but is this the sufficient detail level you were expecting? And then any questions you have for Delano as well. Delano, one asked, this is part of our petition, obviously, so it's a public document. If you're able to, if it's a single document, I don't know that it is, you could put it on the chat line for some. They'd love to review it. If not, we'll get it out through our website.
So all your documents are essentially public, right? In that sense, and it's up to you guys how you disseminate that and how you publish it. So you can certainly put it on your website once it's been. I would caution and say only share those documents that have been board approved and things like that, obviously, because we don't want a sample budget that has not been officially approved floating around.
We'll do that. The most recent county approved budget we'll put up on our website, and I have it in a multi-page spreadsheet, obviously, and if any parents want a copy prior to it going up on the website, they can they can let me know. So, Dr. Scott, comment on budget, and then let's go board members.
Just real quick, I'd like to thank, oh, I'm not on yet.
You're on.
Okay. I'd like to thank Delano and his Athena Advanced company. They have several professionals, CPAs, accounting, payroll. They serve so many functions. We could never replace them as one person's salary, which is, 85,000 wouldn't even pay for an experienced person. Not only that, do they do all this work highly professionally. They have done a lot of work for us before money was involved, out of commitment. And they have a tremendous reputation with Orange County Department of Education, which is half the battle when your authorizer trusts them to do a high quality job. They've helped other charter schools. So I just want to compliment Delano for this work. There's a lot of updates to even add to where this was, but they've always been on the ball for us and always available by phone to help us with multiple public documents that have to be filled out to operate a public school. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Board members, comments? Yeah, Brett.
Hi, Delano, Brett Freeman. How are you? Thank you for walking through that and for all of your help and support. I was just wondering how soon we might be able to get an updated budget based on actual situation. I know you mentioned September, which is here or soon to be here. But I know we're eager to get our eyes on the actual current situation. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for that. It's a great question. So there are a couple of moving parts with getting the budget back to you guys. Obviously, this will be at the September meeting. The first thing that really has to happen is that myself and the superintendent and principal, the leadership team will need to sit down and then obviously go through the budget line item by line item. Obviously, I will need the enrollment as of current. The most current enrollment will be the catalyst for the conversation initially, because that's what's going to drive the revenue numbers, right? So once I have that current enrollment, then we will plug those in. We'll then come back, see what that yields in terms of revenues. There are a couple of developments in terms of grants and things like that that have come up that we will put in this budget as well. That have come to life since the school year began. And so we'll put that in there as well and make sure that those are accounted for. Most of those are obviously going to be, zero neutral in terms of, the revenues are coming in, but they're highly restricted in terms of the expenditure. So that's pretty much a wash. But nonetheless, we'll do that. It will go to the finance committee probably mid-month. So that's another meeting that Glenn and Ethan are looking forward to, I'm sure. And then we will bring it back to the board at the September meeting. So all of that will happen during the course of September. So what we'll bring back to you guys will be a final finished product. And again, the budget is subject to revision at the whim of the board. Right. So you can, at any point, if new information comes up, then obviously we can do that and get the board to approve it again. Obviously, at some point we have to live within our means. And I will always caution you with that, which is, hey, at some point when this budget is set, we're not going to go back in there and start, for every nickel or dime that comes our way, we're not going to revise the budget for that. So plan for the September meeting for us to have a budget back to the board. Short answer to that question.
Great. Next board member, comments or question for Delano? Thank you, Brett.
We're planning for 372. I guess this is more of a question probably back to Michael. What are we at now with student enrollment?
Go ahead, Michael.
Currently, our student enrollment is 330, but I am calling every
Where
day.
is that, Michael, compared to ADA with respect to budget?
I didn't understand the question. One more time.
So I guess my question is, we anticipated 372, we're at 330, right? From a standpoint of the school being able to sustain itself, what's that number? Do we have that number?
Well, see, that depends on a lot of factors. The most foremost is that the 370 number was a very tight budget, not including anything extra. In other words, I think we estimated $50,000 for gifts. So because we have received, we have $300,000 extra this year from the grant and other money from the K Family Foundation and the Larry and Helen Code Foundation, and then individual gifts. Financially, what we thought we needed, we have had more cushion to it. And we still haven't even had a fundraiser yet for our school to raise that initial $50,000 that we thought would come in. So budget-wise, we're on a good track. But that number is going to change in a week because I'll be on the phone. We have a waiting list to go to.
Well, and that was my next question, Michael, right? So we were at 372, we're down to 330. My assumption is you and Stephen are starting to work through the waiting list of students that wanted to come to the school. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm probably averaging 30 calls a day to families.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Glenn. And I think the same question was raised by some parents, and we see you on the chat. We won't always answer you on the chat. It's not that we're ignoring you, we're just staying focused. But when we can amplify one of the answers you've given or a chat, we'll do that. Ethan, you'd asked a similar question. So current enrollment's 330, 370 was the submitted budget projection. And as Dr. Scott indicated, we're in a really good position as a first-year charter. Delano, you might give a little bit of comment on that, where some might go, oh my goodness, we're not at 370. I look at it having some different experience going, we're absolutely fine. We have, contingencies. We have monies that are in categories that we don't have to spend. I'm not worried about the expense side, and I know the revenue side will even grow more. And at 370, we're scheduled to be profitable. Delano, how rare is that for a charter school first year?
So a couple of things here, sort of taking all this into context. Obviously, having 300, and I believe that number was 330 in enrollment in your first year is almost akin to hitting a hole in one the first time you've ever played golf or something like that, right? Because again, most charter schools, they start off very low with enrollment, right? And they year over year, they build on that. So you essentially got out the gate relatively strong, right? I know that 370 was the number that we were aiming to hit. But what we will do now, and again, to sort of answer your question this way, Doug, what we'll do now, obviously, once we know what this 330 yields in terms of revenues, right? And again, there's things that are in place now in terms of staff, things like that are a necessity, right? Meaning that you cannot just say, well, let's just get rid of the 8th grade or the 5th grade teacher, right? That's, you really can't do that, right? But there are other areas and things that we have budgeted that we will revisit, right? And everything is up on the table. And again, it's, these are not my suggestions. This will be the suggestion or recommendation of the administration and also of the finance committee. But is this sustainable? Absolutely, yes. There are a number of factors that will come into play. What you don't see in here is the public charter schools grant. One of the reasons why you don't see it in here is because, again, the grant, the way that it comes in, it's difficult to budget a particular amount of revenues that will come from that because of the way it's a reimbursement grant, right? So meaning that you spend the money first and then they reimburse you later, right? You do not see the K Family Foundation grant in here, which is money that the school has received already. So that's not in here, right? So once I put those things in there, and again, we will revisit a couple of things that have been mentioned already. Fundraising, right? What does that number look like? Knowing what we know now, right? So again, this budget, it will be revised in a way that will be a balanced budget. Legally, I shouldn't say legally, but it would be, I would not recommend you pass a budget that had deficit spending. I wouldn't let you do it, number one, because the first person the authorizer would call would be me and say, hey, what are you doing, right? So that's not going to happen. But we will make sure that in your first year, and again, sometimes it's easy for folks to say, well, they're getting 4 or 5 million in revenues, they should have a boatload of money in net income. And that's not necessarily the case in your first year, because you are spending money left and right just to get the school open and all of the things that goes along with that, right? Startup costs are huge. And the funding that necessarily comes from that, it's not timely. So obviously, you experience cash flow issues and things like that. But short answer to your question here again, this budget will be balanced. It will be sustainable, which is the first and foremost, the first thing, right? And because it's not going to pass committee without having those boxes checked. So, and I am confident that when we bring it back in September, that the board will be pleased, and hopefully our stakeholders will be pleased with that as well.
Thank you. Board members, any other thoughts or questions for Delano? We really appreciate, by the way, the just personal attention your company gives to us. We know you have many, many charter schools, but in our startup year, you've been so attentive. Ethan, Glenn, Brett's got another one.
Hi, Delano, one more question. Regarding the ADA percentage of 97%, can I ask where that came from?
Yes, so again, we take a look at, in my professional judgment, I will tell you this, most schools that are, in that K-8, K-5 range, they tend to average somewhere between 95 to 97, 97.5 attendance rate on average, right? And so we sort of, put our mark on that, saying that, because most of your students here are in that younger population where they tend to have a higher rate of school attendance and things like that. But that's a number that we can, or a percentage that we can adjust as needed. And again, not having, any baseline information, we sort of went with, that middle number of 97% for that. But I would, somewhere between 95 to 97% is usually where we anticipate your ADA, your attendance rate to be.
And is 97% the number that you typically see on other budgets? I know you just give a range there of the 95 to 97.5. I'm just wondering for purposes of some conservatism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we can certainly take a look at that. But it's almost impossible to say, because it's, I can certainly, for conservative purposes say, yeah, let's budget to 95% of that, of your attendance. But I would think that I would venture to say that you would probably would be much more closer to 96 to 97% as opposed to closer to 95%. But then that's something that we'll certainly talk with the administration about, and also the finance committee. And again, because it's keep in mind, it's not just my input that goes into this or my recommendation. Certainly we'll take the recommendation of staff as well. And they usually will have a better feel in terms of, attendance and things like that.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. Again, Delano, we appreciate it, and wonderful report. Thank you very, very much. And September will be another one, and we look forward to our finance committee leading the way on that as well. We're going to move on then with the actual board agenda that requires discussion and motions as well. And next on the board agenda will be a discussion about a computer and information technology services contract with ThinkWare. I'm going to slip out of the actual meeting for that discussion, like I did last week, and just ask Glenn or Glenn, are you still on with live video? I'm looking for you. Let's see. There you are, Glenn. Glenn, would you mind leading that discussion? I know Michael can lead it as well, but as a board, when it's time for a motion, I want to ask if Glenn could lead out on my behalf. Glenn may have taken a bit of a break, and so Ethan, I'm going to slip out of the room. If it comes to a motion, if you don't mind reminding Glenn to ask for that. So the discussion Michael will frame, and it's contract with our IT services. Welcome back, Glenn. I'm going to slip out for a moment.
Sorry, guys. I think it's a bio break.
So this is regarding the motion to pass the contracts with ThinkWare and Glenn Savino. Michael, could you explain a little bit further regarding these contracts?
The need for an IT professional is critical. So we received a donation of, I think the number is 50 computers that Doug Husen arranged through a company that updates every 2 years. What Glenn does is prepare them for use by the children and modify them so that they're safe as far as internet action. That's just one action. We also purchased computers for every teacher, Dell computer for their work. Glenn created the software programs and set them up for their usage. We depend on him for normal monthly support for IT. I personally called on him to help set up systems that were hindering me from doing my job. So Glenn is our expert in IT in multiple areas to have computers available for the school faculty and the children.
What about and so Glenn Savino is with
ThinkWare.
ThinkWare, right? ThinkWare. And how much is the contract right now for with?
I believe it's for $1,500 a month. I don't have the information in front of me because of the Zoom. So is that correct, Bill?
That sounds right. Just from the last meeting, it sounds right.
Okay.
And then there's also some compensation as well that Doug receives, right? As a result of
oh, the amount that he receives is minuscule, but it is $1 or more, and that's why he stepped out. But this is a company from I think 2 decades ago that was sold when he was working after he worked for IBM. He had a private company that he worked with, and it was bought through other companies, and so it's part of the ThinkWare family, and I think that's where the conflict is.
So Michael, I believe what's happening now is the school needs it needs computer services clearly needed. And what is the duration of the length of the contract?
It's monthly through the year, so it's more than $5,000.
Board members,
So Michael, we're talking about a $60,000 contract. Is that correct?
No,
17.
17,000. 17,000 for the year.
17. Okay, got it.
Okay, 1,500 times.
1,500. Okay, I thought I heard 5,000. I'm sorry, Michael. My apologies.
That's fine. 1,500 times in 18,000 for the year.
So just for clarification purposes, any contract values over $5,000 would or would not require a second bid?
Yes, they would require a second bid. And so we did check with other services, and his bid was the lowest.
Okay.
But we don't always go by lowest.
Yeah.
We go by the quality of service that we can expect. He's had a lot of experience with school computers, in particular, not just computers in general, school software and systems.
Okay. So you have at least one other bid, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't, it's been a while since that process has been done. I've gone down the river a long way. But yes, we did.
But you followed, I guess you followed the policy. It was valued over $5,000 until you had a second bid, isn't it?
Right.
Any further questions? Then we can set a motion. Glenn, I'm sometimes a little rusty on this going through the motion process. So if
So can I get a motion to approve the contract to move forward with the IT services as Michael has described?
I motion to.
Second.
Brett, seconds.
And then all approved, say aye.
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 Edward says aye, Glenn says aye, Ethan says aye.
Yes.
And the motion passes with Doug outside the room. Okay,
Motion
Michael,
passed.
what's next on the agenda? I don't have the agenda in front of me, or I'd walk us through, unless Doug's making his way back.
Doug's making his way back, and we're looking at the next item on the agenda.
Thank you for carrying that on, Glenn and Brett.
My pleasure.
Very good.
Ethan.
Okay. Next, after-school benefits for full-time employees. I'm going to have either Principal Chung or Dr. Scott describe what our intention is here. There's a policy letter that he provided each of the board members. But talk to us a little about the intention and the benefit to our staff that you wanted to add to here. I think it relates to after-school care.
Yes. This is kind of it's funny that nobody really thought about it before. When I talked with the Young Mini and Core lawyers, they really hadn't seen this occur. But it's a win-win in the sense that we have an after-school program already in place. And we have a few employees that have children that are attending our school that work with us for full-time. It's only for full-time employees. What it allows them to do is to have their children in after school program while they're working at the same time. So there's a teacher, staff member, 2 staff members, and they're working at the same time. And instead of having to arrange childcare and paying for that, the law is awesome the way it's set up. They gives a $5,000 credit at this time, although for the COVID year, it's actually raised to $10,000 this next year as a credit. So we offer the childcare, and it's a $10,000 value. It's the parent, our employees don't have to pay because it's one more child in a class. It's not creating another whole position to cover it. And we don't have to pay any taxes on that earned income as a corporation up to $10,000 this year. It'll be up to $5,000 in a normal year. So it's a benefit we're able to give that's true value to the parents and convenience at minimum cost to the school because of the tax codes on childcare.
Very good.
My question.
Go ahead.
So this is Ethan. I have a question. Isn't the staff during the school hours, they legally work until 2:33 p.m.? Is that correct, Michael?
Normal staff works from, and this is called classified staff, works from 7:30 in the morning till 4 p.m. in the evening. And none of the classified staff are affected by this service. One that is an exempt and puts in many more hours than a normal 8-hour day. And so their family benefits. Another one is a school teacher. And so it allows her to have her kids care for while she finishes up her work. Doesn't mean that she uses it the whole time either, for that matter. And it's based on the maximum amount. If they only use it 1 or 2 days, that's another matter. So it's less, and that will be covered. So there's flexibility for the employees.
And how many employees are we talking about right now?
It affects 3 employees that are full-time employees, and I think a total of 5 children. And we don't see anybody else on the horizon for several years.
This could lead to another separate discussion regarding the after school and what it's like, but I realize the topic right now is regarding this specific topic. No further questions.
Thank you, Ethan. Other board member thoughts or questions or comments on this benefit, making it part of our policy? I'll make a motion in a moment, but kind of seek some clarity if there's not clarity.
So
It's a great benefit.
Can you just clarify for me, what's the actual financial impact we're going to experience here? Is it $5,000 per 3 parents? Is that what we're talking about?
We don't put any money out,
Okay.
first off. So there's no, as far as I can tell, there's no financial impact. We're taking advantage of the tax that allows for a $5,000 credit. So if one of the employees used the after school program for 3 days a week, say, they wouldn't break the 5,000 threshold.
Okay.
So, and also it releases us from having to pay taxes, because that would be considered earned income for the employee. So it would have added to the tax that we would have had to pay as a school, just like they would be given them $5,000. But because the credit takes effect, we don't even have to pay the taxes yet. At the most, we would be out. This year it's 10,000, so maybe that doesn't count, but the next year it would be 5,000. So if a after school needed total care for the entire year every day, the amount would be about $6,800. By the way, our after school program is a bargain, what we do. So the school would pay the tax liability on $1,800 only, not the first initial 5,000.
No, I understand. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No further.
Does the law allow us to set rather than allow this to sunset, this provision to sunset, have a timeline? You know, given that we are a startup school, things ebbs and flows. You know, we want to be gracious and, you know, be providing for our staff. Clearly, they are doing way too much for way too little. But as we continue, as the school continues to mature, some benefits need to be adjusted. Is it possible to allow for like a time period where this is not forever? As we all know, trying to revise those languages is quite difficult, but creating
I'd see Brett nodding his head as well. I think that would be wise. We could adopt this as a policy for this school year and revisit it each school year as a benefit, because it is above and beyond what we've offered initially on their contracts. And so it's a pure benefit in that sense, but that's wise, I think. Any other comments on that topic? Otherwise, I'll couch that into the motion. And if we do approve it tonight, then the employees can be notified and enjoy that benefit. But yeah, I think that's really wise. And so I'll do that. I'll make that motion that we adopt this policy, but with the change that it's for only this school year and would have to be approved by the board again next year if we're going to have this benefit. That keeps it in this school fiscal year and limits it.
A second, Brett seconds.
Yeah, since I motioned, we got a second by Brett and Glenn as well. But I wanted to get in the box scores by, putting that one out. So all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
He says
nays?
aye.
Okay, great. We got a new policy there for this year. That's great. Thank you, Dr. Scott. Okay, approval, board approval for purchase of computers with increased amount. I think there's a specific need here. Is this one that the need that could be described by either Principal Chung or Dr. Scott? Looks like we have budgeted money in our original budget, but we can give you some consideration if there's some specific monies that need to be approved.
Well, I think it could have been approved without board action, but I felt it was necessary to bring to the board your attention.
That's what I figured, yeah.
So we had already approved 20,000. However, because we were waiting on money to come in through the form of capital loans, we weren't able to buy them at that time when it was negotiated. And because of the COVID and chip shortage, the price increased $8,000. Now, if I hadn't acted, we wouldn't have had any computers, and I couldn't imagine starting school off without computers for the teachers. Would have been a disaster. So I authorized the 8,000 additional money because I'm allowed to authorize up to 10,000. But I wanted to bring it to the board, explain why it happened. I was shocked at the extra money, but frankly, today's school, and I know the parents want communication, cannot operate without a computer.
Great. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. It doesn't look like it's a motion then, but just an acknowledgement, and thank you. It's within the board policy already that's laid out. And so, but we always appreciate that, even though it's still within budget. And sometimes those actions garner other good things. Understand Glenn Severino is going to be delivering some donated computers. They're not laptops. The laptops for the teachers, these will be in classroom computers as well. And so that's good. Wonderful.
Doug, I mentioned that earlier, but I didn't know the exact count. How many are coming?
I believe it's 50 or 52 computers donated by Universal Health Systems, operator of hospitals, 500 hospitals and 500 psychiatric wards. They're their last year's best computers, wiped clean and ready for a school to use. We have to add the monitors, but I believe we have some keyboards and they'll be stellar. That will be really great tools in the classroom. And they're set with Wi-Fi and RJ45 connection. Be great. So that's really neat. Glenn, actually will be out here tomorrow. So we do have an action item. The board needs to approve the charter school revolving loan. You want to describe what that is briefly, and then we'll take an action on that one.
Okay, the state allows charter schools that are new to take out a loan amount of $250,000. It is a 0% loan, and it's paid back at $50,000 per year. So there's a big gap between your initial startup and the first time you receive ADA. And this loan is a way to bridge that. So when we purchased books, Better Chinese books, I think the price is $44,000. So that money has to come from somewhere, and that's what a revolving loan allows the school to do, is to purchase those. Funny story about Better Chinese. My wife and I drove twice to San Jose to bring them home to save $6,000 on shipping. As far as we're concerned, every penny counts.
We thank you for doing that. That's quite a drive. I think that's what is it, 480 or 500 miles each way?
It's 903 miles total. Just off the top of my head.
455. Well, that's great. And so is this, I want to intend some questions from the board. This is state of California recognition that's, startup schools need funding. They provided it 0%. It's paid back slowly, which is nice. Do we have to use it and take it, or do we request it, or is it just all come in one lump sum?
Well, we're not expediting it, which would allow 100,000 immediately because there's a cost. And we don't need to spend the money. On the other hand, this loan can replace other funding methods that we've used that have a charge interest. So it puts us in a better financial position with 0% interest.
So I'll kind of restate that. The trade-off is if we receive this money from the state of California, our line of credit doesn't have to be used with charter school capital, which is a 4% loan or in that range. So it's kind of trading dollars until that comes in. We've always anticipated we would do this. And so,
which is a good point. We always anticipated it, but we never were guaranteed it.
Right.
Until now that it's come through. Our budget was so tight, we didn't even add it in.
Yeah, we didn't even need it to get our budget approved, which is nice. It's a kind of a capital influx that we don't have to really pay back for some time, which is a nice cushion. Again, keeps us cash rich at no cost and offsets the money we might otherwise need from charter school capital, which is more of a line of credit too. So board thoughts or questions on that?
I'm
good, thanks.
At this point, I have no questions.
Yeah, I think it would just be helpful to get our arms around all of these other things that aren't included in the budget.
Right.
And I'm sure that'll be captured in Delano's next round, but we have these different buckets and it'd be good to have the whole picture.
So I'm going to restate that for Brett too. He said it'd be nice to know any of the moving pieces that are not in the budget that are available to us, put within the budget in September. Absolutely. When we went to the county for approval, county board, we made such a conservative budget. We didn't want to identify any monies like this that were available. That way we truly could say this is a conservative budget. Now that they're in, we'll get granular and you'll start seeing those show up as on individual budget codes. And that will be really nice. That will also show well on our cash flows. So that's really good. So the motion is to then approve the charter school revolving loan offered by state of California that we've now successfully applied for. Would someone like to make that motion?
Yeah, Doug, I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Glenn. In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ethan. And all in favor signify by saying aye or raising hand. Any
Aye.
nays? Great, unanimous with the ayes. Great, good work on that. I know that's been in the works for almost a year and it takes that long. We did items 5 and 6 already with Delano, but if last shot to, if there's any thoughts or questions from board members, Delano was gracious enough, I think, to stay on with us at this late hour. Let me just... Thanks, Delano. I don't know that there are any. You did a really nice presentation and entertained our questions, but any others, guys? Okay, very good. Thanks.
That was a nice presentation. I just want to say thanks for that. I appreciate it.
It was really nice getting it at that level of detail, wasn't it? And the finance committee is going to be very involved even at a greater level. So that's really nice. Great confidence builder. Opportunity for board recommendations. These are things that you'd like to ask of either our...
We have 2 more on the agenda.
Oh, do we? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I had a agenda that was missing 2 items. I was looking at my old one. Sorry. There's a discussion. It's not a need for action, but I think Dr. Scott had some thoughts he wanted to share with us about a prospective contract. You met Nick Driver last board meeting. He's a long-term advisor for charter schools. And he presented a proposal to Michael for his services for this fiscal year. And Michael wants to give us some reflection on that and again, seek some wisdom from the board.
Nick Driver was one of the original founders of Yunming Charter in Oakland, the most successful charter in the state. So he lived in China for 16 years as an AP reporter. So he speaks Mandarin. Brought all of that experience to Charter School Management Corporation that helped charter schools up and down the state. For the last 3 years, 4 years ago, he has been helping craft our school petition. And the rate that he's offering is half the price of our lawyers. And the experience he brings is tremendous. I mean, people up and down the state, Nick Driver is a name they recognize as an expert in charter schools. So we have the opportunity to hire him. He's asked for one negotiated idea, but I want to go back to that base because I think we can do better on the amount of time that he spends with us. But his advice today, you know, I called him today about asking questions and he was able to give me great explanations. I consider it invaluable and less expensive than calling legal.
Yeah, our legal services have great value in the formation of our charter. They were essential, I'll tell you that. Now, however, that we have our charter and are moving along, getting that kind of operational advice from someone with such great experience at a lesser rate, I think is what you're sensing. He's valuable to you as a superintendent, us as a board with some of the training we receive. And yet what I'm hearing from you is you just don't want to buy that much that he's offering, right? Give us a scope of what the offer was that he came back with on an annual basis. How much was he looking at?
Initially?
Yeah.
Let's see, I have to count it real
If you remember, but if you remember monthly, because I think you sensed you wanted a chance to go back, negotiate a little more before coming to the board for an approval.
Yeah, it would have been 18,000 for the year, which would have been a great consulting fee and worth it. But I think we can do much better than that.
And can we maybe get a view of the scope of service? Can we see his proposal?
Great idea.
That would be helpful.
Yes.
Everybody hear that? That we could get a little look-see at the scope of service, and then that gives us a chance to reflect back to Superintendent Scott some of our thoughts. But I just like the frugal approach, but this is a person with some really great insight and expertise that on the fly the first year can really help us. But again, in the scope we want, and that's the dance. So no, I think any other thoughts at this moment? I think that's a good way forward. That we get a scope of service. We'll give you some reflection individually, then trust you to go make the negotiations, bring it to the board for another board meeting for approval. But seems good. Any other thoughts from board members on Nick Driver? Nice. We've all had some personal experience, so it's great. Okay.
Yeah, no, Doug, I met him. I thought he was really well. You know, he knows his stuff in California charters. But let's get his statement of work and let's see his scope of services compared to his cost.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Glenn. Last one on here is a real joyful one. It's the motion to accept the K Family Foundation donation in the amount of $140,000 to this endeavor in this school. Prior to making that motion, which I will gladly make, I thought it might be nice to hear a little background on the K Family Foundation's commitment to education, and then why we've become the recipient of this generous grant. Ethan, could you share with us just your background knowledge on the commitment of the K Family Foundation to education?
Thank you very much, Doug. K Family Foundation has always been a big supporter of education throughout Orange County in different arenas. I believe we have a room named after us at UCI and other different schools, and that entire family has made. And why K Family Foundation has supported the Irvine International Academy is we believe right now of the vision of Dr. Michael Scott's teaching STEM with a Mandarin perspective. It's bold. It is going to be challenging, but nevertheless, we feel it's the right approach. And so this gift is going to allow IIA to have the ability to as a start to really see that through.
Yeah.
So looking forward to this.
Dr. Scott, any comments from you on any comments from you on the
Yes.
science and STEM and what you expect for our children and their families?
The budget that we originally had didn't include money that the K Family Foundation is providing. And it was a great budget to do what we're doing in Mandarin instruction. Wonderful budget for that. However, it became quickly apparent that our families wanted a tremendous science program that was just as important. And I was able to write a grant to the foundation to explain our vision to have science become a daily experience for our children, something that they would learn from by experiments, even failure, to learn how to fix things that don't work out right away and develop tenaciousness and persistence and innovation. So the science program is keyed on by a coordinator that takes a twig science, which is used by Irvine Unified, but creates it on a daily basis with experiments weekly, and more often than that, organizing trips, field trips that will bring engineering, solar, water dynamics, so that by the time 8th grade is experienced, the kids will have had hands-on experiences with all type of scientific knowledge. They will go into a high school program with real life experiences on a scale nobody else has accomplished. Although I do know another school that did the same thing. It was by the California Science Teacher of the Year for 2017. She's the principal of it. They hired a person full-time. And I walked in their room that they had set aside for it, and there was scope and sequences for almost every subject everywhere. That's what we're doing for science because of the K Family Foundation grant.
Well, on behalf of our board, and of course, we have a protocol which we'll acknowledge to the K Family Foundation directly, but on behalf of our board, I want to just say thank you to the K Family Foundation. This is a amazing addition to our school in year one. Couldn't be more pleased, and I know we'll see it manifested throughout the year in tangible ways. And so thank you, and thank you, board member Ethan K. too, for just joining this board and expressing personally with your time the value that you personally put on education. So we're grateful. We're grateful and such. Board members, any comments on that before I'll ask for a motion to accept the grant as described?
Chairman Doug, I do need to abstain as I'm.
Oh, yes, we'll ask you to abstain from the vote. Any other board comments? Well,
Thank you, Ethan.
Yeah, I'll ask for a motion then to accept the $140,000 grant. And it sounded like Brett was, oh no, Glenn got on the scoreboard first. Brett second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And any nays? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ethan K. abstaining. But what a wonderful thing. One thing I may have missed, but I just got to ask for clarification from Dr. Scott too, for agenda. Is there benefits for full-time employees in is it classified that we need to approve? Was that not approved earlier? Or is that something we need to add into today's approval?
For the after-school program, full-time staff, health benefits for full-time staff in the after-school program.
I don't know if it needs to be approved. It's our policy.
It's already built into our policy. Yeah. So I think the benefit was the only thing on today's
over
agenda.
30 hours a week, then you have to receive.
So it's already part of it. So we're good. No board motion on that. That's great. Okay. Well, that takes us then. We do have opportunity in a moment for public comments before adjournment, and then board recommendations. Anything for Principal Chung or Superintendent Scott that we want to put on their agenda, other than we're going to hear prior to public comments, I want to hear from Board Member Watson and Freeman too. Just their reflection on earlier board comments, but any recommendations, this could fit into that category, by the way, but any specific recommendations by board members? Let's keep it within this category then. And Edward Watson, would you give us some reflection and for the public to hear as well on just what you heard and what your expectation is of this board?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Houston. So I think the biggest thing that was brought up by the parents were the COVID protocols. A lot of parents discussed that. So I think that those are very important, and that this goes along with the COVID protocols is transparency. So getting the website updated, which also goes along with what people were saying. I think a lot of them tie together, and it's just transparency and trust. That goes along with the COVID protocols, the website, the phone numbers, being able to contact the school when necessary. And then also just the accountability of the board and of the budget. It was nice for Mr. Jones to go through the budget tonight. Also parent and teacher communication, because some parents are having struggles with communicating with all of the teachers. I think different teachers in different grades probably are more communicative than some. So there's been a problem there. And also the security, and probably Board Member Freeman can discuss this a little bit more, but the Freeman with the security, with the idea of dismissal, and how, and I've discussed this as well with people at the school, and I'm more than happy to try and help in any way I can. But the security issue of picking up kids and who's coming in to pick up kids, and who's with kids, and how are kids being dismissed. So those were the major points that were discussed earlier, and I hear the parents loud and clear, and I am going to do what I can to try and alleviate those complaints.
Thank you. Brett, you can pull your chair over if you want. And right in front of the camera, if that's okay.
So thank you, Board Member Edward. I just wanted to reiterate what the chairman had reflected, as well as Edward, that we're all very much listening to what you're saying, to all the parents. And I too have a kinder student here, and have probably a lot of similar feelings that you may have. We do ask for your patience. I know that we're in this process early, but know that you have a board that cares, an administration that cares, the superintendent that cares, the teachers care, and we're going to work to get it right. We're going to work to earn your trust and be more transparent. So we really thank you for taking the time to be on these meetings, because we know that your time is precious, and we're going to do our best to make IIA the place that you're going to be very proud to have your kids in. And I think that will be a legacy for each of us that are participating in this very, very exciting journey. So thank you very much. The board will work with the administration here to get some communications out to you about how we will address the various issues. Once again, we do ask for your patience. We'll try to get that out as quickly as possible. And we appreciate your understanding with this matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Just great. You echo, I think, the sentiment of all the board members really well. It's just great. At this time, I want to check and see what the scope is of additional comments. We're kind of a unique board structure in the way we do things. We offer some public comments up front, and a lot of times public organization will limit those to 30 minutes and try to cut into the time for the parents. We don't want to do that, obviously. And thank you for those that, waited around till this second round of public comments. Mary Beth, do we have some to read and some that would want to verbally do that? we are going to take all of them in the comments, so we'll get back with you on those, which is our commitment. But while you're here, we want to hear from you as well if you've taken the time to stay.
Okay, is Stephanie Shaw still here?
Stephanie, are you available to verbalize your comments, or shall we just follow up with, if we don't hear from you, we'll follow up with you, of course. And thank you. There's as many as 30 some parents with us tonight.
Stephanie wrote down her.
Sure, feel free to read my questions.
Okay, she says, will there be a dashboard so that we can see cumulative case counts for IIA? Also, what is the lunchtime COVID protocol for rainy days? And is there a requirement on the type of cloth mask? It is currently undefined in the COVID protocol.
Okay, so we heard all three of those, and they'll take some specific replies from the cloth COVID mask specifications, if there is one in particular. Rainy days, will we move back into the cohorts in the classroom for lunch, or how will we handle rainy days? Thank you for bringing that up. And did you get the first one, Brett, that she asked? Stephanie, repeat the first one. Oh, is the dashboard for?
Dashboard so that we can see cumulative case counts.
Yes, we can do that. I saw Dr. Scott had presented a model or a mock-up to me last week or a week and a half ago. So we'll have some way to report that. Yeah, great, Stephanie. Thank you. Who's next?
Michelle Lee.
Michelle, yeah, are you still with us? And can you?
Hi. I'm Michelle. I'm a parent. I just want to give the board some background information about how much we desired a Mandarin immersion public school. Both of my children attended very expensive Mandarin immersion preschools. So I met Dr. Scott in the parking lot outside of LaPorte Mandarin in 2019. I signed the petition for the school to start. My children are 3 and 6 years old, and they've been doing Mandarin immersion basically since they attended preschool. We were participated in the lottery. We were very deep on the wait list, practically at the bottom of the wait list. And I had actually given up on being able to enroll this year. So to show you my dedication to this school, I convinced my husband to sell the house that we loved outside of IUSD. We bought a home in IUSD over the summer. And my plan was to participate in the lottery again for the next year, 21-22. So we were thrilled to come off the wait list. However, once I observed the class, I am a Tiger mom, but I'm also an emergency medicine physician dealing with a COVID surge in Orange County. And one of the teachers routinely was pulling down the mask. The COVID protocols were not being followed. The desks were not sanitized daily between classroom exchanges. And although physical distancing is not required, it should be encouraged when possible. We have in the classrooms 4 desks facing another 4 desks when they should actually be just facing forward. So I was so surprised to be able to be called off the wait list when we were practically at the bottom. But I want the board to know that many parents are leaving because of COVID concerns. So last year, 6-foot distancing, masks indoors and outdoors. So when there's no physical distancing, the masks are even more important. And for young children, the teacher and the staff are the examples. So universal masking recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics is not even a question. But in addition to universal masking, the mask needs to be worn properly or it doesn't make a difference. So I want the board to know that the parents are in favor of Mandarin immersion, but if the kids get sick, they can't go to school, not just for COVID, but other illnesses. So there's no education without health first. The class has a capacity of 32, and on Friday, one of the classes had 24. So for the school to succeed, they need to make the parents feel safe, that their kids are safe.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you for being on the journey so long. And hopefully you heard Edward Watson and also Brett Freeman too, who also have children here, and we're hearing you. Who's next, Mary Beth?
Michelle Rush.
Michelle.
She said I could read it for her.
Oh yeah, listen. This one's coming from Michelle. It'll be read by Mary Beth.
Okay. Is there a reason why IIA keeps adding students from the wait list to the classrooms? Our class was told there may be 6 more students entering. The classrooms can barely comfortably fit the current 25 students, and children are just getting used to the class routines and their classmates. Plus, we are still in a pandemic, so I'm not understanding why we need to keep adding more bodies into the classroom. I'm assuming this is a school money reason. And she continues, one of the students in my class was coughing, sneezing. The teacher herself did not want him there. She was uncomfortable with the situation. So we sent him to the front office. He was returned back to the classroom and was told by Michael Scott that he did not have to wear his mask to cough while in the classroom. This is very concerning. We are still in a pandemic. The teacher was so uncomfortable that she sent him back to the front office and had his parents pick him up.
Okay, thank you. That was worth reading. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't usually make comments on public stuff, but I say that to a child.
Okay, yeah. How many more do we have? Because I want to kind of give them each an opportunity. They've been so patient.
4 more.
Yeah, who's next?
Donna.
Oh, Donna, thank you. Would you share with us? Thank you for waiting so long. I know it's late.
Sure. Thank you for your time. I know it's late for everyone. Everyone. Well, first and foremost, I do want to thank IIA, everyone in leadership position, for even coming up with the vision of the school, because as you can see with the enrollment and even just this meeting, this is definitely something that we as parents are looking for. So we're very thankful that you guys see our vision and there's a need here, obviously, and that you're able to fill the need. I did have a couple concerns. The first one is I was curious between the relationship between IIA and OCMD. I didn't hear very much about it today, but in every other meeting prior, at the grand ceremony, at the orientation 1 and orientation 2, I think there were 2 orientations and such. I felt like I heard more about OCMD than the school and the schedule and the curriculum and such. And it just makes me wonder, are they a big donor to the school or something? I'm not sure if I see a connection. It's just that they seem to be very highlighted at all these events. I also find it a little strange that to enroll in OCMD after school, I would have to go to the OCMD website and pay online. And then I also have to write a check to IIA after school, even when I didn't want to attend after school. I don't know why I need to do this separately. I don't know why I need to do that at all, to be honest. And then why I have to do it separately. In every other school, if there was like they brought in an outside vendor, we just pay the school directly for their services, not the third party. So it seemed a little bit odd to me somehow. The other concern that I had is, and I think the board addressed it a little earlier with the budgeting, is why is the school still calling and inviting students, in some cases aggressively hounding them to come in? I mean, as parents, we're already in week 2, and I know that some kids have left, but there's still a lot of kids in the classroom. I mean, just because the classroom can fit 32 students as max capacity doesn't mean we need to shove 32 students in there. It's, in my opinion, I have a kindergartner. The classroom is too small for 32 children, to be honest. I mean, just having them line up takes a lot of space, the desks and the tables. I mean, we're not even talking COVID here. We're just talking, there's not that much space. Not to mention 1 teacher to 32 kids, or even if you have an aide and 2 parent volunteers in there, it's just not that much space. And the constant changing of the roster is very frustrating to teachers. Teachers, I feel like they have a certain routine in place, and then 2 days later it has to change. So it's not only challenging for the teachers, but it's really hard for the younger children. These kids, you give them a number, they know they're number 12. So their backpack and their lunch boxes and their snacks and their jacket goes into the number 12 cubby, or hooks or hangers or whatever. And they stand in line when they line up and they're on the number 12 dot. And then when they, everything is 12, 12, 12. And then all of a sudden they get shifted. And to adults, it's not that big of a deal, but it's a really big deal for children. All of a sudden they're number 3 and they have to relearn another routine. And it's just very challenging. The third issue I have is about transparency and conflicts of interest. So this was an issue I had already, to be honest. And then just hearing the board meeting earlier, I know that it sounded like, and I could be wrong, but it sounded like we just approved a $1,500 a month IT contract, which is fine. I don't know how much these things cost, and if that's what it warrants, and that's fine. But my concern is the fact that it was to, I think, Thinkware Tech, which is a company that is one of the board members affiliated with somehow. And I understand this board member stepped out during the meeting, and I appreciate that. That was definitely, high integrity. That was the right thing to do. However, it wasn't made clear to everyone that that was what was going on. I almost missed it. I had to really pay attention. I know you guys talk about competing bids sometimes if the dollar amount is over a certain dollar and such, and I think that's great, but the competing bids should also be shared. I mean, this is just all in the interest of transparency for everyone. If you have 2 bids, 3 bids, these bids should be shared, and why you choose one versus another. And not just in hiring third-party vendors, but also in hiring staff, possibly, how certain staff is hired. I mean, sometimes it's just the conflicts of interest is something that we as parents want to be fully aware of. And then lastly, I will say this, as a parent volunteer, I've been in the school pretty often, in and out. And every time I walk by the front office, there's always a child in Mary Beth's office. I don't know if it's the school nurse's office, or it's in Mary Beth's office, right by that office. And I see it every time I walk in and out. As I walk around the school, I see posts for the nurse. So, but my question is, do we have a school nurse? I don't think we do. But it just seems like we do, I guess. And there's a lot of children that get hurt, but we don't have a nurse at the school at all. I believe Michael Scott mentions that he is a nurse in the COVID protocols. He's listed in there pretty clearly. However, I can't seem to verify that anywhere. I cannot find his license online, and I don't know if it's out of state or maybe it has expired, but regardless, whatever it is, he would not be a practicing nurse. So I don't know if we have a nurse. I guess that's my question. And I don't know if it's something that we need. But in an elementary school with 300 children, they seem to be getting bumps and bruises and bloody noses and scraped chins really often. So
yeah.
So thank you. That's really just a couple of concerns that I had, and I hope that the board will really look into this some more.
4 really great ones. Some of those are mentioned in prior board meetings. So for instance, the Thinkware contract was a carryover from a prior board meeting too. So there's more detail there. But we'll get back with you on all 4 of those too. Unless you want to talk about nurse at all at this moment, sure. We could slip it in. Then we got a couple more to follow up with parent comments.
Yeah. 46 years ago, I got my nursing license as an LPT. It's part of the LVN, LPT California Nursing Board from Mount San Antonio Junior College. I worked in the state hospital systems and for charter hospital, psychiatric for decades. So I was trained in all medicine at the LVN level. I don't know what else to say except I'm a nurse, but I worked as a teacher for most of my career and kept my nursing license until it finally wasn't necessary anymore, but I never forgot what I learned as a nurse. I could go back and get the license if I needed to, if that would help.
I think if we want to operate as a legitimate school with a legitimate nurse, we're going to have the license, and it needs to be up to date.
Well, just for a fact though, you don't need a licensed nurse at a school site. You need a health aide. We have several RNs at our school, including two of my daughters, one of which has children there. Three at least are volunteering to work as an RN as well. So your first line of defense is my nursing experience, and that's there 50 hours a week, every day, 10 hours a day. First line of defense. Dr. Vo, our science coordinator, is a cardiologist, vascular surgeon with pediatric experience. He has made himself available to come to the site at any moment if I should see that there's more needed than my nursing experience would cover. But at that point, we'd probably be calling 911 if there was something I didn't think I could handle. As you mentioned.
So just to make sure I understand it, because I'm not a medical professional at all, just a parent. So you're saying that you are a nurse and you're practicing at the school, but you do not have an active license, and nor is one needed. Is that what you're saying?
Health aid is adequate for a school site.
Okay, so you're
somebody
acting
trained, and I've been trained.
Okay, so no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. There's a couple we didn't answer, but we'll get back to you on those because you had 4 items.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it.
We got it. Mary Beth, who's next?
Shane.
Shane, thank you. If you're available. Give it a second. Shane, when you are, thank you. You're worth waiting for. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I don't even know where we're at. I had to step away for a second. Is it about the phone line?
Yeah, you're fine. We can hear you well.
Okay. And then I'm not sure. I've made a few comments, but I'm not sure which comment we're talking about.
Nothing on topic. You open comment right now. If you want to reiterate anything that you put in the chat, we're going to, go through the chat obviously afterwards too to answer directly, but anything on your mind, feel free to share with us.
So we have a separate chat with all the parents from the Frontiers Trilingual Immersion. There's a big group of us, obviously. So we have a separate chat where we talk about concerns. So part of it is the issue of picking up kids. We trust each other to, at least the members of that group, to pick up the kids, but I don't want it so, like Naz had mentioned, if someone could just walk in and grab a kid, that's unacceptable. So I think if there's a dedicated phone line or that we can call or text, which we kind of had at the other school Frontiers, where we would let a certain specific person, there's a dedicated phone that we could text or call and say, hey, I'm running a little bit behind, such and such is going to pick up our kids. And, just depending on traffic, because not all of us live close by or work close by. So just based on that, that was one of the things I think that would make things easier and say, hey, such and such is going to pick up our kids. I'm allowing it. And then we've had it before where when they do that, they just meet us in the playground. The kids are just playing in the playground until somebody can make it to pick up the, their respective kids. So that was something maybe we could do. I don't think it's that hard or like that hard to do, you know what I mean? So that's one thing. I think also the homework part, the Wonder Kids, we want the kids to be able to focus on homework first and play later. I'm not sure if there's anything else that I wrote. I've been on this thing for 3 hours off and on and making a bunch of comments. So I just want to make sure that if there's anything else that someone wants me to talk about. Let's see.
Those are two, take a moment, maybe see if there's something else. Those are two really great ones. And I saw Mary Beth taking notes, and we'll review with Dr. Scott's Principal Chung on the pickup method. Certainly there's an approved pickup person, but to have an ad hoc person that could be approved, they'll address that with you, best practices and Dr. or Stephen Chong, you know, I'm sure you had lots of flexibility, but also some rigid, you know, who can and cannot pick up. We certainly have that at the school I've been part of too. So great idea, Shane, too. Let's see if you remember one, chime back in, but let's go on to the next. Who do we have next, Mary Beth?
Thank you.
We have Lotus.
Oh, Lotus,
Okay,
yeah.
let me read her.
Lotus, we're going to read yours unless you're still on and want to.
Oh, no, she wants me to read it.
Yeah, we're going to read it. So if we miss anything, let us know.
She said, we would like to address parent-teacher communication. Although we appreciate having access to many platforms and options, it can be a bit overwhelming when it comes to ensuring that we don't miss any communication. Would it be possible to dedicate at least one official location where all communication could be posted or addressed among many additional platforms that the teachers and administration may choose? Some teachers have been good about posting and emailing. There's a rumor that Google Classroom is in the works. If you can confirm or deny it.
What was the last question?
There is, let's see, would it be possible to dedicate at least one official location where all communication could be posted or addressed?
Got it. Thank you. Is that a repeat question? Yeah.
Okay, number 2, in addition, it would be appreciated if all of the teachers can communicate homework assignments to both the parents and after-school program teachers so that everyone is aware of the required assignments and we can help our students succeed.
Great. Lotus, thank you for those both ideas and that question in there too. So we'll get the confirm, or I like how you put it. We'll confirm if we can. That was really good. Who else, Mary Beth?
Vicky.
Okay.
Vicky,
Vicky, are you available to share your comments and questions? Did she post anything?
No.
Vicky, I'm sorry if we went too long for you to stay on, but I want to give you a chance if you are. Let me check the participants.
Oh, are you talking to me? Sorry, I'm just here to listen. I spoke earlier.
Oh, I think there's a
Yeah, I think we
Vicky
did. I think
I.
we caught you. I remember.
Oh, Vicky I.
Oh, another Vicky. So sorry about that.
So will available enrollment be filled with students from the wait list to maximize the budget?
Not to maximize the budget, but just to make the opportunity available. We have a legal duty also to those that are on the wait list to give them an opportunity. Yeah, so it's not budget driven. I mean, our budget can be fine. Makes the budget better, but we're not bound by the budget. That's not our motivation. I'll just answer that one directly.
Thank you for clarifying, guys. Just we were talking about budget at the time, so just wondering how aggressive the school was being in filling those spots. It almost seems that with all that's going on, it's actually kind of ideal not to have a full classroom to try to manage the children a little better and get the procedures going.
All right. Next question.
What's that?
You want to go to the next question?
Yeah, thank you, Vicky. Now I understand in the context what you're asking. And so thank you. Yeah, for clarifying that. That was good. Who else says next?
Is this year's budget, does this year's budget include all grants?
No. It will in September, so it'll even look better.
And then another question, every child is worth $14,000?
Not quite. The algorithm's a little different. So go back and watch what Delano laid out at the very first part of his presentation. And it shows that's not quite the amount. It's lesser. It's closer to about 10,000. Yeah, great question. But everybody wonders that. And different districts are different. Different schools are different. Inner city areas that receive extra federal funding could be as high as 14,000. That's not our case. So just that's probably enough on that topic. Yeah, good. Well, wow. Parents, I know our board members would say this. We get paid. No, we don't. We volunteer to stay this late, but the involvement of parents in this school is honestly, in my experience, unprecedented. It's wonderful. And so thank you. I don't think it was said any better than Edward Watson said it, and Brett Freeman echoed. what you've shared, some of it along some very defined threads from safety, communication, all of these things we here understand, and we will advocate strongly and then do our best to communicate back and reflect our progress. Wow, just really productive tonight. Thank you. We get to do this in a public forum once a month, sometimes on special meetings, but very, very valuable. Would board members agree? Just maybe with a nod of heads. It's just, this is helpful to us too. We want to be the stewards and advocates on your behalf too. So next on the agenda is actually our move for adjournment. Just ask any board member if they make a movement to adjourn our meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Brett Freeman makes a move. Second, please.
I second.
Oh, Edward got on the scoreboard.
Yeah,
Edward, second. Thank you. All in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
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 And any nays? Motion carries unanimously. Want to again thank everybody for participating. We'll stop our recording.